Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP gets home from her honeymoon to find an uninvited guest living in her house. My entitled sister-in-law literally moved into our house while we were on our honeymoon. I still can't fully wrap my head around what happened. It's been months, but every time I walk past the guest room, I remember it like a weird dream that got too real. So my husband and I had just gotten married after 2 years together. The wedding wasn't fancy, but it was perfect for us. Simple, happy, surrounded by the people we love. I was tired but content, finally feeling like the chaos of planning was behind us. We booked a 1-week beach honeymoon, the kind where you forget what day it is and your phone stays in a drawer. Everything was perfect. Mornings by the water, lazy breakfasts, walking hand in hand without any noise from the outside world. We joked that it was the calm before life began again. When we packed up to go home, we were in that peaceful newlywed mood where you can't stop smiling for no reason. As we turned onto our street, I noticed a car parked in our driveway. My husband slowed down and frowned. It was his sister's car. At first, we figured she might have stopped by to drop off one of the leftover wedding gifts. He'd given her a spare key so she could bring them in while we were away. Nothing unusual about that. But when we pulled in, the feeling changed. There were grocery bags in her back seat, and the blinds were open. Our house looked lived in. Too lived in. We went inside, still calm but confused. The moment the door opened, it felt off. Her shoes were lined up neatly by the door next to ours. Her purse hung on the coat rack. It didn't look like someone stopping by. It looked like someone settled in. Then we saw the guest room. Her clothes were hanging in the closet, her toiletries spread across the dresser, and her phone was charging on the nightstand. There was an open bag of chips on the bed and a half-empty iced coffee on the desk. I turned to my husband, and he looked like he was trying to do the mental math of how long we had been gone versus how much unpacking had happened. Then we checked the kitchen. Half the food we had stocked before leaving was gone. The milk was half empty. The frozen dinners we had planned for when we got back were missing, and there were unfamiliar dishes in the sink. And that's when we saw her sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, like she was working from home. She looked up and smiled, completely casual. "Hey, you're back early," she said, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. We both just stood there. I finally asked what she was doing, trying not to sound rude. She said she had moved into the guest room for a while because she didn't feel safe at her apartment anymore. Apparently, her roommate had started dating someone new and she didn't trust the guy. That would have been fine if she had called us, asked, said something, but no, she just moved herself in. The craziest part? She changed our Wi-Fi password and even told our neighbors she was house-sitting for us. I can't even make this up. I asked why she thought it was okay to do that without permission. She just stared at me for a second, looking confused, like she couldn't understand why I was upset. Then she said, "It's just temporary. You weren't using the room." My husband finally stepped in, trying to stay calm, and told her she needed to leave. She instantly flipped from calm to teary. She said she thought we wouldn't mind, that she was scared to go home, and that we were family. Look, I get family. I get helping when someone's in trouble. But we had just gotten home from our honeymoon. We still had bags in our hands. She'd eaten our food, slept in our bed, and turned our first week of married life into a bizarre sitcom. We told her she could stay the night, but needed to move out the next day. She said we were overreacting and accused us of trying to push her away from her brother. We didn't argue. We just started helping her pack. Every room revealed another layer of her mini move-in. She had brought 3 suitcases, 2 boxes of clothes, and her gaming setup. She had even rearranged our living room to, her words, make it flow better. By midnight, she was gone. We changed the locks the next morning, called the internet provider to reset everything, and took back our house. But of course, the drama didn't end there. At my mother-in-law's birthday a few weeks later, she barely looked at me. Cold, polite, but definitely making sure everyone in the room knew she was hurt. I overheard her telling an aunt that I kicked her out with nowhere to go. My husband and I just let it go. Anyone who knows her long enough understands that she lives in her own version of reality. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being violated. Not in a criminal way, just in a personal one. That was our first home together, our start, and she treated it like a crash pad. I kept wondering what kind of person thinks that's acceptable. We eventually found out she went back to her old apartment after a week once her roommate's boyfriend moved out. Apparently, she had exaggerated how unsafe she was to justify the move. I wish I could say I laughed it off, but it honestly left a weird shadow over everything. I'm careful now with who has spare keys. I even double-check with my husband before giving anyone access just to be safe. Every once in a while, I'll joke that she's probably waiting for our next vacation to try again. But deep down, I hope she never does. I'm all for helping family, but next time, she can help herself. Thank goodness you made her leave. I was holding my breath reading this, thinking she'd still be there by the end. Holy moly, the audacity some people have. You know she already had her stuff packed before the wedding. She was probably moving in the second you hit your honeymoon destination. Good for both of you for getting her out ASAP. Who wants a roommate in their first month of marriage? Congratulations on marrying a man who actually stands up to his family. Most people would have folded under guilt, but he helped her pack, and that says everything. Imagine coming home from your honeymoon and finding your sister-in-law turned your guest room into an Airbnb. With no booking, no notice, and half your snacks gone. And she really said you weren't using it anyway. That's not temporary housing, that's trespassing with extra steps. Am I the jerk? My dad crashed my car and my parents won't let me use theirs. I, 21 male, am living at my parents' house for a while. It's not ideal, but I lost my apartment after some rough personal stuff and I needed a place to get back on my feet. Things were fine enough. Occasional arguments here and there, but nothing major. Then last week, everything blew up because of one stupid decision. My dad asked to borrow my car for a quick errand. I wasn't going anywhere, so I handed him the keys. 40 minutes later, he calls me sounding rattled. He blew a stop sign and T-boned another car. Nobody was hurt, thank God, but my car looked like it had gone 10 rounds with a freight train. Front end crumpled, hood bent, lights smashed, engine leaking like a burst artery. I did what any decent son would do. Made sure he was okay first, then arranged a tow and a shop estimate. Now I'm stuck waiting weeks for repairs and still have to get to work 45 minutes away with zero public transport. So I asked to share my mom's car for a bit. Our schedules overlap nicely. She starts an hour earlier and gets off half an hour before me. I could drop her off, go to work, pick her up. Simple. Apparently not. Mom snapped that she didn't want to depend on me. She said the accident was between me and Dad, and she shouldn't be inconvenienced. I explained it was temporary, just until my car was fixed. She refused. Here's where it got infuriating. Dad, the one who wrecked my car, just nodded along with her. He suggested I bike to work, 45 minutes away, across highways, in summer heat. When I pointed out how insane that was, they told me that I was ungrateful, that I should be thankful they gave me a roof at all. I wasn't asking for luxury, just a ride until Dad's mistake was fixed. But apparently, wanting basic fairness makes me the bad guy. Now I'm stuck scrambling for rides from friends while Mom and Dad act like I crashed my own car. If roles were reversed, I'd hand them my keys in a heartbeat. So, am I the jerk for thinking my dad should take some responsibility and my mom should cut me a little slack? Not the jerk. Your dad destroyed your car. He and your mom refusing to help you while preaching gratitude is manipulative nonsense. If they truly cared, they'd make sure you could still get to work instead of calling you names. Not the jerk at all. They're both acting like you asked for a free vacation. You just want transportation so you can keep your job. That's common sense, not entitlement. Your dad sounds like the kind of man who's never been held accountable for anything, and your mom's protecting him instead of you. They sound exhausting. Update. A lot has happened since I first posted. Things eventually calmed down, or so I thought. My parents agreed to cover the repair costs, and for a couple of weeks, we shared Mom's car until the shop finally finished mine. I was grateful, really. I figured that chapter was finally closed. Then, out of nowhere, my mom demanded I pay them back. She said it wasn't fair that she lost money over an accident she didn't cause. I agreed it was unfortunate, but reminded her that I didn't cause it either. Dad did. I told her I was sorry she had to help with the bill, but it was Dad's responsibility. That was apparently the wrong answer. She went off, accusing me of using them and being selfish. Dad? He sat there nodding like a bobblehead. A few days later, I came home from work to find my life on the curb. Boxes, clothes, computer, everything, dumped outside like trash. Mom stood by the doorway and told me I was ungrateful and she was done with me. Dad was behind her, quiet but complicit. I was stunned. She said I could either leave peacefully or she had called the police. I didn't test her. I called a friend and spent the night on his couch. Now my siblings are calling me. My sister agrees with Mom, says I should have just paid them back. My brother says the eviction was harsh, but still thinks I should have paid. Dad keeps trying to call, but I can't bring myself to answer. I'm mostly just confused. I was already planning to move out in 2 months when my friend's lease ends. My parents knew that, but they still decided to throw me out with no warning, all because I didn't reimburse them for a crash I didn't cause. How do you even process that? The way your mom weaponized gratitude is disturbing. You're not ungrateful for expecting fairness. You're protecting yourself from manipulation. Stay with your friend, build independence, and never let them guilt you again. Update 2. My mom told my siblings I was a mistake. It's been a few days since I last updated, and I wish things had cooled down. Instead, they got worse. After I had settled in with my friend, I decided to answer one of my dad's calls. He sounded nervous, like he had been waiting for me to pick up all week. He said he was sorry about how things went down, that Mom hadn't meant to throw my stuff out like that. Apparently, they were supposed to talk to me first, but she got emotional. When I asked why he didn't stop her, he said he didn't want to make her angrier. That sentence told me everything about their marriage. I wanted to move on, but then my brother called me. He sounded uneasy and said Mom had been bad-mouthing me to him and our sister. She'd been comparing us, saying they turned out successful while I was always the problem. Then he said something that froze me. She had told him that I was a mistake. He added that she hadn't said it outright, but the implication was clear. He felt sick hearing it, and he thought I deserved to know. It's strange how one sentence can make your whole body go numb. I sat on my friend's couch staring at the floor for what felt like hours. I wasn't angry anymore, just empty. I've been trying to understand why she'd feel that way. I wasn't a perfect kid, but I never caused them serious trouble. I worked, paid my bills, and helped around the house. If she was resentful about Dad's accident, fine, but this went so much deeper. I told my brother thanks for being honest, then hung up. I didn't want to talk to Mom. I didn't even want to hear her voice. I just needed to breathe. I don't plan to cut my dad off yet, but I'm not reaching out either. I don't think I can take another apology that's really just an excuse. For now, I'm staying put with my friend and focusing on work until I figure out what's next. Not the jerk. I'm so sorry. What your mom said isn't normal anger. That's deep resentment. She's projecting something from her own life onto you, and your dad's enabling it by hiding behind, "I don't want to upset her." You're grieving the parents you thought you had. That's why it hurts so much. What they're doing is emotional cruelty, and you don't have to keep trying to understand it. Sometimes there isn't a reason that makes sense. Update 3. My dad finally told me why my mom hates me. After everything that's happened, I wanted closure. Some explanation, even if it hurt. So, a few days ago, I asked my dad to finally tell me the truth. No more vague, "she has her reasons." I needed to know what those reasons were. He hesitated at first. He's never been the confrontational type, especially when it comes to Mom. But my brother helped me push him a bit. Eventually, Dad told me the whole story. When my parents found out Mom was pregnant with me, they were in their late 30s, already raising 2 older kids. They had both decided they were done having children. Mom, especially, wanted to focus on herself for once. But then I happened. According to Dad, the pregnancy was brutal. Mom was in and out of the hospital. She was constantly sick, constantly scared. She said she even started wondering if it was a sign from God that she wasn't meant to have another baby. When she gave birth, there were complications. I came early. She lost a lot of blood. Dad said he thought he was going to lose her that night. She survived, but something inside her changed. She struggled to bond with me. She'd hold me, but it didn't feel right to her. She told Dad she didn't feel the same love she had felt with my siblings. Then came the health issues. I was a sickly kid, in and out of doctor's offices. Every cough or fever set her on edge. Dad said the stress just built up. Eventually, she started believing I wasn't just an accident, but a punishment. That word, punishment, has been stuck in my head ever since. I want to say I felt empathy for her, and part of me does. It must have been terrifying going through that. But it's hard not to feel angry too. I didn't choose any of that. I didn't ask to be born. And yet, all of my life, I felt like I was somehow taking up space that wasn't meant for me. Dad admitted she said cruel things before. Things about how her life would have been easier if I'd never existed. He said he doesn't agree with her, but he also never stopped her. Then he told me something else. Mom had been counting down to an empty nest for years. When my siblings moved out, she finally had peace. Then my life fell apart and I came back home. It must have felt like a nightmare to her. The house she had waited decades to reclaim was full again. To her, it wasn't about the car or the money, it was about control. About feeling like she was trapped again because of me. That conversation broke something in me. I walked away feeling worse, not better. I wanted answers, but not ones that made me feel like my entire existence was a burden. Since then, I've cut contact completely. Mom, Dad, and my sister, all blocked. I can't do it anymore. I can't keep chasing love from people who only give it conditionally. On the bright side, my friends have been my real family through this. They fed me, listened to me, even helped me job hunt. I don't know where I'd be without them. Unfortunately, I also just lost my job. Not related to the family drama, just bad timing. It feels like the universe keeps kicking me while I'm down, but I'm hanging on. My friend's lease is up in 2 months, and we're planning to move into a place together. That's my goal, a fresh start. I'm exhausted, but I'm still here. This explains everything, but it doesn't justify it. What she went through was awful, but taking it out on you for 21 years is unforgivable. You didn't ruin her life. She chose resentment over healing. New update. It's been months since my parents kicked me out. It's been about half a year since I last posted. A few people have checked in, so I wanted to give an update. Things are finally starting to feel normal again, or at least peaceful. I still haven't talked to my mom. From what I've heard through my siblings, she's pretending I don't exist. She threw out any photos that had me in them and tells people she has 2 kids instead of 3. My brother says she even calls him her only son now. He tries not to argue anymore. It hurts, of course, but I've realized her silence is its own kind of freedom. I don't have to walk on eggshells anymore. I don't have to wonder what version of her I'll get that day. I haven't spoken to my dad either. My brother says he asks about me sometimes, but I know what would happen if I called. He'd just tell me to make peace with Mom. I can't do that, not right now. My sister and I are on cautious speaking terms again. My brother helped bridge that gap. We're not close, but at least it's civil. My brother, though, he's been incredible. We talk more than ever. It feels like we finally understand each other as adults. As for me, I'm doing better. I got a new job a few months ago. My friend and I moved into our own apartment, and for the first time, I feel like I'm building my own life. The past year drained me emotionally, but I'm learning to fill that space with better things. Good friends, quiet mornings, small victories. I still think about my parents sometimes. The love is still there, buried under everything they've done. But I'm done chasing the version of them I wanted them to be. Maybe one day I'll talk to Dad again. Maybe not. I'm not holding on to expectations anymore. Just peace. I'm glad you're finding peace. Your mother didn't just lose a son, she lost the chance to grow. You've broken the cycle by walking away, and that's the hardest, strongest thing you could have done. What you've built now, stability, real friends, self-respect, that's what family is supposed to give you. Sometimes the blood ties don't survive, but the peace that comes after is worth it. Keep healing. You know, some parents really think "I gave you life" means you owe me peace and quiet forever. Yeah, it's wild how Dad crashed the car, but Mom totaled the relationship. At least OP's rebuilding from the wreckage. Sometimes peace comes after you stop waiting for an apology. Right, and sometimes the best revenge is just living better than the people who tried to break you. Am I the jerk for wanting my brother's family to move out so I can finally live on my own again? When I kicked my ex-husband out 4 years ago, I thought I was finally taking my life back. I had a steady job, decent income, and this big 4-bedroom, 3-story rental house that felt like a blank slate. The rent was steep, but my boss had co-signed the lease to help me out. I figured I could make it work with budgeting and some side jobs. That lasted about 2 months. Once the shock of living alone set in, the numbers stopped making sense. I was scraping by, skipping little things like ordering takeout or buying new clothes just to keep up. That's when my younger brother called. He and his wife were drowning in their own mess, and he sounded desperate. They'd been living with her mother and brother since the lockdown started. Everyone in that house relied on some sort of rental assistance, but the others stopped paying their share, and it wrecked my brother's rental history. They couldn't get approved anywhere new. They had 3 kids crammed into a 600-square-foot apartment, and he said the baby's crib was basically wedged against the kitchen table. I still loved my brother despite the years of distance between us, so when he hinted about needing help, I told him they could stay with me until they got back on their feet. I didn't realize that "until" would turn into several years of chaos. When they moved in, I gave them the master bedroom so they could be close to their kids' rooms. My son and I took the daylight basement, and I tried to make the best of it. I turned the living area down there into a tiny apartment for us. Mini fridge, toaster oven, hot plate, you name it. At first, it even felt cozy, like a new adventure. But then the reality of sharing the house kicked in. My sister-in-law has a talent for turning every space into a clutter explosion within 24 hours. Toys on the stairs, laundry in the hallway, dishes in the sink that multiplied overnight. She always said, "I'll get to it later," but later rarely came. The living room furniture and dining table were mine, but I stopped using them because the mess stressed me out. The table was constantly buried under school papers, juice boxes, and half-finished art projects. The couch cushions were always sticky from who knows what. I used to love cooking, but after scrubbing the kitchen every time I wanted to use it, I gave up and started eating in the basement with my son. It's not like they didn't try at all. They paid part of the rent, and my brother did basic chores when reminded. But the overall energy of the house shifted. It stopped feeling like mine. It never really felt quiet anymore, and every corner seemed taken up by someone else's things. It's a strange kind of loneliness, being surrounded by family and still feeling invisible in your own home. When our first lease ended a year later, I thought, finally, they'll move on. But they hadn't found a place yet. Their credit was still wrecked, they had no savings, and the market was brutal. I could have walked away, but I didn't want to be the villain who kicked out kids. So I renewed the lease for another 2 years, telling myself it was temporary. That was 2 years ago. The lease ends this December, and I've already decided I'm not renewing again. The thing is, the situation has only gotten worse. My brother and his wife fight constantly. Not screaming matches, but just this cold, passive-aggressive tension that hangs in the air. He cheated once a couple of years ago, and she still throws it in his face every few months. It's awkward, uncomfortable, and the kids can feel it. When they argue, I put on headphones and pretend I can't hear. My son has started avoiding the main floor. He spends all his time in our basement space or at his friends' houses. He told me once that the house feels like a daycare, and I couldn't even disagree. He's a teenager. He deserves privacy and peace. I can't even invite my older kids, who are in college, to stay over because there's literally no room for them. Their old bedrooms have been turned into storage and play areas for my nieces and nephews. The final straw came a few months ago when I told them I was house hunting. I said it gently, letting them know I'd be moving out once the lease ended. My sister-in-law's face went pale. She told me they wouldn't be able to rent anywhere and might end up living in a car. That hit me hard. I love those kids. I've celebrated their birthdays, packed lunches, helped with homework. But I also realized I've been parenting adults who never planned beyond the present. Every solution has been temporary for them, and I've been their safety net for far too long. Since then, the guilt has been eating at me. My brother keeps acting like this isn't serious. He keeps saying, "We'll figure it out." But "we" always means me. When the internet bill goes unpaid, I cover it. When the dryer breaks, I fix it. When the fridge runs out of food, I'm the one refilling it. I've become the landlord, the babysitter, and the silent witness to someone else's life overtaking mine. My new boyfriend hasn't even stepped inside the house because I'm embarrassed by how chaotic it feels. I can't host dinner, can't relax, can't breathe without feeling like I'm intruding. The idea of living alone again feels almost mythical, like something that happens to other people. Sometimes late at night, I just sit on the basement steps and listen to the muffled noises of the house. The TV running upstairs, the kids fighting over a tablet, the water running forever because someone forgot to turn it off. It's this constant reminder that peace costs rent money, and I've already paid more than enough. So now I'm firm about it. When the lease ends this December, I'm moving out. I've already told my boss I won't be renewing, and I'm looking for a small place for me and my son. I want a home where I can cook without cleaning for an hour first, where I can invite my kids over, where I can have quiet. My sister-in-law keeps guilt-tripping me about throwing out family, but I keep reminding myself, I gave them a home for years. I've done my part. I don't hate them, but I can't sacrifice my sanity anymore. So now I keep wondering, does that make me the bad guy? Or am I finally choosing myself for once? Edit. When I re-signed the lease 2 years ago, I told them my goal was for them to use that time to get back on their feet so they could move out on their own. Before that, they had already been on the previous lease with me for about 1.25 years. So at this point, they've had plenty of time to figure things out. I know I've been more than accommodating. They've known all along that this was temporary, and I've brought it up several times over the past few months. Things seemed fine until the most recent conversation, when my sister-in-law said they might end up living in their car if they can't find a place. That really hit me hard, and it's honestly the only reason I even made this post. I have a lot of compassion for my family and I love them deeply, but I'm at a point where I just want to have my own kitchen, my own space, and the ability to live a calmer, healthier life again. They're using you. They were fine with it at first, but were secretly hoping you'd change your mind and keep them around. Now that you're following through, they're panicking because they have to figure life out on their own. Next thing you know, they'll call you selfish for wanting peace and time for your own family. I can already see them asking if you found a place for them too. I just don't get why they can't take over the lease themselves instead of relying on you forever. OP. I rent from a big conglomerate company that buys up a lot of houses in the area and handles everything remotely. I don't think they'd allow my brother's family to take over the lease because of their past discrepancies. Fingers crossed, they find a place and get things figured out. It might cost them a bit more, but I really hope it works out for them. Terminate your lease and move. Let them figure out their own mess. They've gotten comfortable because they know you'll fix everything. If you wait for them to leave on their own, you'll be waiting forever. My next-door neighbors have 7 kids in a 2-bedroom house, and they make it work. Your brother's family doesn't need more space. They need motivation. You've helped them for years, and it's time for them to help themselves. Don't let guilt talk you out of your peace. You've done your part. You deserve to live your life and be happy. OP gave them years and even lived in the basement, yet they're shocked that she wants space back? Freeloaders always act surprised when the gravy train finally stops. 2 years' notice is more than generous. Time for her to swap crying kids for clinking wine glasses. Karen steals a house and her family congratulates her, but I taught her a lesson. I want to get along with everyone, but my wife's extended family is full of some really bad people. They're perfectly nice to everyone's faces, but no sense of morals. They're the kind of people that think that scamming and stealing is a legit way to get ahead in the world and be an accomplishment. For an example, one of my wife's uncles chose gaming over working during his marriage, and when his wife divorced him for cheating on her, he won alimony and half of our money, which totaled to over $500,000. After he got it, he bragged and everyone congratulated him on becoming financially stable. Those kinds of people. Of course, my wife loves her family, so we see them frequently. I'm trying to raise my kids to have actual morals, so I try to counteract the lessons they're learning from that side whenever I see it. The big news at Thanksgiving was that one of my wife's cousins, Tia, and her husband just became homeowners for the first time this year. She and her husband are young, so there were a lot of questions, and the story was recounted. Well, her husband's grandma passed. She had left the house to her kids to split, but her lawyer father-in-law figured out a loophole to take the entire house for just his son, and he had him jump on it before the rest of the family even had a chance to know about it. He wanted to help out his son, so he paid the entire cost to make it happen as a wedding gift, and to be able to do over his ex-wife and her siblings, no doubt. Per usual, everyone was congratulating them. I tried to have a side conversation with my kids to make sure they knew that they really stole the house, and that wasn't right. It was overheard and started a whole thing about how it wasn't Tia's fault and what did I expect her to do. I'm willing to give that it's a little bit of an exception because while it was actively being done, she didn't even know anything about it because she was in the psych ward at the time. But she does now, and she's certainly reaping the benefits. If something you want to not be complicit in happens, you have to do something to go against it. You don't get to go, "It wasn't my fault, and therefore I don't have any responsibility here," while you waltz around your free house every day, still cuddling up to the person that stole it. Everyone accused me of bullying her when I know she's vulnerable and being too hard on her for just trying to be a good wife and survive when I know she's had a hard time. And they think that this is such a good break for her, so why can't I just be happy for her? I wanted to keep the peace, so I said that we see things differently, and I told my wife I was leaving and would pick her up when she was ready. After I left, Tia apparently had a panic attack and had to be calmed down. And now I'm enemy number one, and they all want an apology. I don't want to give one, because I'm not in the wrong. Is this really something that I'm supposed to be okay with? Unless you want your kids to grow up to be just like them, this is definitely the hill to die on. You need to have a conversation with your spouse about how you don't want her family's low morals spreading to your kids. But do so calmly and give her a chance to explain her side without interruptions. Once she has, ask her to allow you to explain yourself in a similar fashion. Make sure to try and cite examples of situations you don't agree with and how you're worried this will affect your growing perception of your kids. Also, ask how she would feel if her family felt they could get ahead at your expense. Because if they think conning a family out of rightful inheritance is brilliant, then they probably wouldn't think twice about doing you over for the sake of your spouse. If she fails to see any of your points, I'd make sure you have one heck of a lawyer that you can trust. As to the cousin's panic attack, not your problem. She better get used to people outside the family thinking she and her husband are scum, because they are. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for exposing my ex-girlfriend to her fiancé? I, 26 male, dated my ex-girlfriend in high school when we were both 16. I'd had a crush on her since we were little, so when she finally agreed to go out with me in high school, I was over the moon. Unfortunately, our relationship was a nightmare. I quickly realized she had low self-esteem, constantly asked for reassurance from me about her looks and weight, and if I didn't tell her exactly what she wanted to hear, she would gaslight and manipulate me to make me feel guilty. I didn't realize at the time, but after reading stuff online and listening to podcasts, I realized her behavior was not acceptable. We dated for around 1 year, and she ended up breaking up with me, citing her mental health, etc. I never saw her after high school because we moved to different cities, and also her social media accounts were set to private. Recently, there was a high school reunion. I found out she would be there, so I decided to go. She hadn't changed much, still looks the same. She said hi to me as if nothing had happened and proceeded to make small talk with me. It really bothered me that she was pretending nothing happened between us, so I asked if we could talk privately. I told her about how I felt about the way she treated me when we were dating. She said something like she was going through a tough time with her self-confidence and apologized for taking it out on me, etc. Said ever since she met her current partner, she was feeling more confident about herself. She then told me they were engaged, which also came as a shock to me. I asked her if she had told him about us and how she treated me when we were dating. She said she mentioned her past relationships to him, but didn't share all the details. I told her she needs to tell him about how she was towards me so that he knows who he's marrying. At this point, she made up some excuse and ran away from the conversation. I felt that the new partner should know what he's getting into. She still looks the same and has not made any effort to change or improve herself and probably has the same insecurities, and I imagine how this man will have a terrible marriage. So after the party, I used a friend's account to find her fiancé, and I sent him a message detailing the things she did when we were dating in high school. He responded with something like asking me to stop bothering them, whatever that's supposed to mean. It's been about a week since I did this, and now I'm getting bombarded with messages from high school friends calling me a creep and a jerk. I don't understand how people can side with her when she was the one mistreating me, and it's her responsibility to let her fiancé know about this. I was doing what I felt was right. I thought maybe they're reacting to this because they don't have the full story and the background about our relationship. So I wanted to post here. Am I the jerk, or am I helping this poor man? Edit. Reading through your comments is making me question myself. First of all, I don't have a problem with how she looks. I think she's cute. It may be true that I am hung up on her. Gee, you think? She was my first and my only long-term girlfriend. I do think I deserved more from her than an apology, and I did always think we would end up together once she worked on herself. I feel very frustrated about how things turned out. I'm against therapy, so I won't do that. I might contact her again to see if she'll talk to me. Maybe that will bring more closure. Even though it was mostly negative, I still appreciate the comments. So, you corner someone you dated years ago. She listens to you before stopping the conversation because it's going nowhere. Then you harass her fiancé and try to blow up her life? Jealous and bitter much? You're the jerk, big time. You're the jerk. Get over it. You just proved to the world that you're fixated on her. Is it possible she's changed since high school? Is it none of your business? You knew her then, her fiancé knows her now, and you know nothing about either of them anymore. Get your nose out of her business. You're the jerk. OP. I agree she may have changed. I did keep track of her through common friends and was following where she was in life. I didn't know she was engaged. This came as a big shock to me. I feel that I know her better than her fiancé since I knew her since we were 8, and even though we didn't speak since high school, I did get updates on her via mutual friends. I thought maybe if we tried again together as adults, we could have a better relationship this time. And if she apologized for mistreating me and promised she would be better this time around, I was willing to give her another chance. But I don't see any evidence about her having changed, so I wasn't sure. Update. Just got done speaking to her. After the initial surge of comments here, I decided to contact her. I got her info from a friend and messaged her, and she agreed to talk to me. I apologized for contacting her fiancé, and she said she accepts my apology. She said she's sorry about the things that happened in our relationship. She said she had therapy, and now she has more confidence. She told me that she has been honest with her fiancé about her life and past, and he's really supportive of her. Overall, she sounded in a better place, and it sounds like I don't really have a chance with her at the moment. We ended the conversation pretty amicably. I feel okay with where things are now. Reading these comments was hard on me, but I don't have much control over how people interpret things, so thanks, I guess, for the comments. My sister, my boyfriend, and my parents have completely stopped engaging with me. I, 27 female, have a younger sister, Jenny, who's 25. Jenny has been with and married to her husband, Jake, who's 27, for almost 3 years, together for 5. They really do seem like a match made in heaven. However, one thing she struggled with for a long time is infertility. Jenny has wanted kids for as long as I can remember, but when they started trying 3 years ago, it just never happened. They tried everything, but their doctor just said Jenny wasn't capable of carrying a baby to term. They've since looked into adoption or even surrogacy, though it is way above their budget. I, on the other hand, have never wanted kids. Not when I was a kid, not now, and hopefully I'll never have any in the future. I don't know why, but kids make me anxious, and childbirth is just a nightmare to even think about. Recently, I found out I was pregnant. It was a complete shock and sent me into a panic attack. My boyfriend, who's 29, was upset when I immediately suggested ending the pregnancy. I told him I didn't want kids ever, but he was adamant on not ending the pregnancy. He suggested taking full custody and raising the baby all by himself if that's what I wanted. He reluctantly even suggested adopting the baby out of my hands completely. Anything, but he was not willing to be without the baby. My parents reacted worse. They said they wouldn't allow me to hurt a living being and offered other options. They even told my sister, who just jumped at the chance to adopt my baby, saying it was perfect and the baby could remain in the family and be raised by loving parents. Now, I don't doubt they'd make great parents, but I just don't want to go through a pregnancy. Every moment felt like an explosion would go off at any moment. I hated it and I refused to continue with the pregnancy. I went behind their backs and got the procedure done. When they found out, my boyfriend just coldly told me that we're done and he walked out. He isn't taking my calls now. Jenny wailed and insulted me before Jake took her home. She then blocked me and has since refused to even look at me. My parents keep saying they're just disappointed in me and wished I wasn't their daughter so they wouldn't have to deal with me. I just want to fix things with them. They're my family and have always been kind and caring. I desperately want to sort their problems out and for things to go back to how it was before I got pregnant. Any advice on how I can explain my feelings to my family? Edit. Oh, please. My parents and my sister and boyfriend are not bad people. I know I wasn't in the wrong for making my choice, and neither do I think they're wrong for how they feel about it. My parents have cared for, raised, and supported me all my life. Through my teenage years, my studies, my relationship issues, career problems, everything. I know they aren't bad people. I just want to know how I can explain my feelings to them because I'm confused and struggling with expressing myself. My boyfriend and I have been together for 9 years. We literally grew up together and promised to always be there for each other and always choose each other. He supported me through everything. He offered every help he could think of during the 2.5 months I was pregnant. He tried to understand my fears and help me through it. I understand I was wrong to go behind his back, but that's done, and now I want to know how we can move past this. He didn't leave when people made fun of him for dating me, when college life got too hectic and we had to go days without seeing each other, when my grandma passed, when I was sick, or when I was terrified of a baby. He was there for all of it, and I don't want to be without him. Please help me convince him to seek counseling or therapy or whatever it takes. I can't bear to lose him. The ship with your boyfriend has sailed. I don't think you two will ever be able to recover from this. The reality is, your pregnancy made him realize how much he wants to be a father. You don't want to be a mother. Therefore, you two are no longer compatible. Your family may or may not come back around in time, but there will be no coming back from this breakup. 9 years or 20 years, you're fundamentally incompatible, and that's not reconcilable. No one is wrong in this situation, except the parents and sister who had no right to involve themselves in the first place. You made the choice you felt was right for you, not going through with the pregnancy. He made the choice not to continue the relationship based on your choice, which he felt was right for him. Regardless of what you ended up doing, you were already standing on two opposite cliffs with your boyfriend, and there was never going to be a solid bridge between you. I'm sorry for your loss, all of it, but it wasn't going to work out once you both expressed wholly opposite views on childbearing. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's kid I don't intend on being her mom? Context. I, 34, female, have been in a casual long-distance relationship for 2 years with Matt, who's 40. I set boundaries at the start of our relationship. We will never live together. He will not be involved with my kids or my family. I won't be involved in his. My kids have a dad that's very active in their lives, and we co-parent amazingly. The relationship I have with Matt is just that, with him. Matt agreed to these terms. Everything was great. We never argue because we have nothing to argue about. We have our separate lives, and when we're together, it's like a break from the real world. Matt is relocating closer to me because he's grown tired of the city and wants to live in a more rural place like I currently live in. He will still be roughly over an hour away, so it's within comfort. His daughter, Ava, is 12, and he was unable to leave her home as his mom had a slip and fall and wasn't comfortable watching Ava while she was on heavy medication. She just wants to rest. He wasn't comfortable leaving her at the hotel alone, so he asked me to watch her. I agreed, and we both understood it's a one-time thing. He tells Ava I'm an old friend, but I'm guessing she's heard my name before. It's not a traditional American name because of what follows. She was being mean to my daughter, Rose, who's 11, making fun of her blemishes. I asked Ava if she wanted to go to the basement to play any of the games down there. She said no, so I told Rose to go to the basement, so she did. I then catch Ava slowly opening the basement door, and I ask her to go to the living room. She refuses and opens the basement door all the way. I tell her she's not allowed down there right now, but she's welcome to the Wii in the living room, or she can pick a movie to stream. We go back and forth, then I walk to the basement door and shut it. She starts screaming at me that I'm not her mom, so don't try to act like it. That's when I told her, "Baby, it never crossed my mind because I have my own kids to parent. I have no intention of trying to be anything to you. I'm just helping your dad." She went to the living room and occupied herself with her phone. I made lunch, served it. She didn't touch it. Cheese quesadillas. Her dad picked her up later, and when he got back to the hotel, he called me about what I said. He said he understands why I said what I did, and it's true, but it was out of pocket to say it to her. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your boyfriend should have told her the lay of the land beforehand. I don't think it would be a good idea to do this again. Puberty plus a new partner of a parent is a bomb waiting to go off, and you're justified in not wanting to deal with that. OP, I agree. At this point, I'm sure she's put it together that when she has her weekend at grandma's, he's not sitting at home, so this will only get worse. Not the jerk. I thought that what you said was perfect. She was blaming her disobedience on you not being her mom, and you were like, I don't want to be your mom, but I still get to set the rules in my own house. Good on you. You're the jerk, but not for this specific question. Your casual boyfriend is moving closer to you. You blurred your boundaries by watching his kid. You and him are clearly in different headspaces when it comes to the relationship. Time to have a serious talk. I agree. Their relationship reads very much as friends with benefits and not a boyfriend-girlfriend thing. While I do admit that the friend's daughter was disrespectful, I think OP was too harsh with her response of, "I have my own kids." To me, this reads, "You're not my kid and you never will be." It just feels mean to me. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for what she said or not? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for suggesting calling off the wedding because she thinks the prenup is unfair? My girlfriend, who's 26, and I, male 24, just found out that she's pregnant. She's adamant about not wanting to have a kid out of wedlock, so we've been discussing getting married. We've been together for 3.5 years. Prior to finding out about the baby, we had only talked about marriage a bit. I know she wants to get married badly, but I'm kind of on the other side of the fence. I'm not 100% against it, but definitely not eager or desperate to get married for multiple reasons. For one, my brother just recently got taken to the cleaners by his ex-wife. He pays her like $10,000 a month in addition to losing some of his properties. And that whole situation terrifies me, and I've never really seen what a marriage provides that makes the risk worth it. To me, it's just the same as being together how we currently are, but giving the state permission to be in our relationship. However, now that she's pregnant, I've been more open to it just because I know how much it means to her. So we've started this process, and I'm slowly realizing that I may have bitten off more than I can chew. While me and my girlfriend love each other very much and are compatible in pretty much every way, our ideas about marriage, the wedding, etc. seem to be a little different. For starters, for the wedding, I was thinking we each pick some of our closest people, maybe 10 or so each, and we get married on an island or a beach, stay for a week or two, something cool like that so we can have fun and enjoy it. She pretty much wants the exact opposite. Massive wedding in a big venue. Now I don't see anything wrong with that type of wedding. It just seems like such a colossal waste of resources to invite every person we know when we could instead have fun for a week or two, then get married on the beach with our closest friends and family. It doesn't necessarily have to be the beach, I'm flexible, but I think you get the idea I'm going for versus the idea she's going for. They're two completely different schools of thought. She basically wants to invite every single person she knows. Like I've looked at her list, and she's got friends she hasn't seen in years, third cousins, literally everyone. To me, if I'm gonna spend a boatload of money, we should do it for ourselves, not people we barely know. We've been talking about compromises and making slow progress on that end, but we were getting there. She knew prior to getting married I would require a prenup. I make about 4 times her salary, and I own property and plan to acquire more. I had my lawyer draft up a prenup, and she has her lawyer reviewing it. This is where we came to an impasse. Her lawyer believed the prenup was unfair, and we've been going back and forth making changes. I've made some concessions, but I'm kind of at a point where I don't want to make any more. While I admit the prenup is definitely ironclad, I think it's fair considering the situation. I'm taking all the risk. Why would I continue to concede on things me and my lawyer both believe are fair? So recently, we got into a minor argument over wedding stuff in general regarding the prenup and wedding, and I was just like, maybe we should just keep things how they are. Of course, she flipped. We've cooled down since, and she says she still wants to make this happen, but that I need to be more open to compromise. I feel like, given this situation, I've compromised more than I already should have. I talked to my brother about it, and he told me I've compromised more than enough and to hold firm, and worst case, you stay girlfriend-boyfriend, which is realistically probably better anyways. My sister disagrees and says I'm being a jerk for not working with her more. The way I see it, why would I risk everything I've worked for when I'm not even getting the wedding I want, nor the financial protection I want, just so I can say I'm married? There's just very few tangible benefits I'd be getting in relation to the risk. So, am I the jerk? Update. We ended up having a discussion about the whole marriage thing where we both were able to get our opinions and concerns out there. Just me and her, no lawyers, no anything. It was really helpful because it let both of us get our concerns out there. We ended up agreeing that the whole marriage and prenup situation was too stressful right now while we were dealing with so many things, pregnancy, moving in, etc. So we agreed that for now, we would focus on the baby and pin the marriage conversation for now. I agreed I would be open to discussing it again in a couple of years, once everything is settled down, and she ended up being satisfied with that. That was last week, and as of a couple days ago, we finished moving the rest of her stuff to my place. Her lease ends at the end of this month, and all that is left in the apartment is some furniture she plans to give to her family. And since this is my last post about this situation, I'll provide some clarity about why I didn't want to compromise any further on the prenup. The language that my lawyer and I chose to use was very definitive about what would happen in the event of a divorce. On the other hand, hers was not. Again, still not going into details, but I'll say what my lawyer told me. He basically said that if I were to concede the language any further, he could no longer give me a guarantee on what I stand to lose. He said at that point, I would pretty much be at the mercy of the judge's interpretation, meaning anything could happen, especially considering the fact that we live in California. For me, that would defeat the entire purpose of the prenup, which is why I wasn't willing to concede on it. I actually was willing to concede on the actual wedding plans, but I just couldn't imagine letting a court system that is historically pretty unfair have the final say over my assets. I assured my girlfriend that in the event that we separated, I would make sure she was still taken care of, which made her feel better about the whole situation as well. I don't think my problem was necessarily the commitment to her. It was more the fact that someone else would have the final say over everything in the scenario where things go wrong versus myself having the final say, which, as many of you have pointed out, means I'm just not ready for marriage. Reddit is so Reddit sometimes. Dude wants to protect his family wealth going into a marriage, and he's being crucified for it? Never change, Reddit. Never change. I get a lot of people here do not have the experience of having generational wealth, but let me put it this way. Imagine you own some nice assets, like a couple of houses or something along those lines. Nothing outrageous, but decent. Now you have two choices here. Get some sort of agreement in place before marriage to ensure that these assets are protected and the benefits from them can be passed down to your kids, or two, let the government handle it and then have it sold during a divorce, with half the proceeds going to your wife, who can now spend it however she pleases, including on her new boyfriends, or kids with other men, or for plastic surgery, or whatever else she wants. I have a family trust with some assets in it, shares and property, that my wife has no part of and will never have any part of. The beneficiaries were initially just me, but since they've been born, my kids have been added to it. My wife will never, ever be added to it. That money is for me and my kids. There is nothing wrong about wanting to protect your assets so that they benefit you or your kids. Wow, cool that you don't see your wife as family. Does she realize you see her this way? Pretty crazy that this woman is just a vessel to give you kids, but is not actually family herself. This line of thinking is exactly why people keep making horrible mistakes, like the one my grandfather did. He died without any sort of asset protection in place, and instead of his kids getting his estate, his surviving second wife looted everything and gave it to her adult kids. I mean, you can try to shame people for not being idiots, but at the end of the day, idiots are people who don't plan for the eventualities of life. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his fiancé? Please let us know. My boyfriend lied about quitting his job and put our housing in jeopardy. How do I get past this? I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. After he got a job in an apartment building, we decided to move into an apartment there because he would get a big discount on rent. A year or so after living there, he started to hate his job due to the stress of having an understaffed team and long working hours. I suggested that he look for a new job if he was unhappy there, but he continued to stick it out because of how good the rental discount was. Well, one day, he comes home in the middle of the workday and says he's taking the rest of the day off. 2 days go by and he still hasn't gone back to work. I ask him what's up, and he says that he just needs to use up some extra days of paid time off. The weekend comes around, and while out to dinner with friends, he gets a little drunk and basically reveals to me and to other friends at the table that he quit his job on the spot for good. On the way home, I ask him why he waited so long to tell me, and why he would just quit cold turkey without a new job lined up, especially considering that his contract states that once he stops working at the apartment, we have to be moved out within 4 weeks. Plus, at this point, he owed me a couple $1,000s from shared expenses that he was catching up on. He said he was sick of working there and waited to tell me because he needed time to process it, but that he would figure out his work and our living situation. Fast forward a week later, and we've applied for a new apartment. A few days later, we get denied due to rental history. I call the screening company to ask why, and they say that we have an outstanding balance at the current property we live at for last month's rent being late, and now an open eviction filed because of it. I'm completely stunned because I send my portion of rent to my boyfriend every month and we pay on time. Turns out my boyfriend hadn't paid the rent and got served the eviction notice one day while I wasn't home, all before we had even applied to the new place, and he didn't tell me about any of it. I paid off the outstanding balance so that we could get the eviction filing dismissed. Luckily, I was only listed as an occupant and not as a leaseholder, so the eviction wasn't on my record too. But I'm livid because not only did he omit important info from me again, but now that meant he couldn't apply to a new place with me since most places will automatically deny you with an eviction filing on your record. So now we had fewer apartment options since we'd only be applying with just my income instead of both of our incomes. So a week before we needed to move out, I found a new place to apply to, and with the help of my dad co-signing with me, I was able to get approved for it. I'm self-employed, so it's hard for me to get approved by myself, even though I make over 3 times the rent. It's been 2 months now, and my boyfriend still is unemployed. I'm covering all the expenses, and at this point, he owes me almost $7,000 since I've been covering his half of the rent plus our other living expenses. He uses my car to deliver for Uber Eats, but it's just not enough since he also has student loans and other bills to pay. I just don't feel like he's doing everything he can to find a job and pay me back, and the lies he told are making it hard for me to trust him. It feels like his decisions were so impulsive and he didn't even stop to consider how they would affect me. And whenever I try to address it with him, he gets really defensive and says I need to understand that he needed to do what was best for him and his mental health at the time. Would you be able to trust your partner again after something like this? Is this something worth breaking up over? How long would you wait for your partner to get their act together? Or what would they need to do to make things right? Why even get past it? Know that in a crisis, he will sink your shared ship without even giving you the courtesy of a heads up. Then he will lie about it for as long as he can manage to get away with it. In 7 months, he will spend every dollar of yours without a concern. You're turning to your parents to bail you out because he wouldn't even grab a bucket to help keep you from sinking. Ask him to leave. Whatever he could conceivably do to make this right at this point, it needs to stop being done on your dime. You dump him before he permanently ruins your life. He's a mooch. His career plan is for you to pay all his bills while he lies to you. You would be foolish to trust him. He's proven himself unworthy of that. My wife told me that I'm not our daughter's father. During a huge fight, my wife told me that I'm not our daughter's father. My wife and I have a 6-year-old daughter together. We've been married for almost 9 years. We got into a really big argument, which isn't unusual for us these days. We've been on the verge of divorce multiple times, but always end up changing our minds. This time, she got so mad that she yelled at the top of her lungs, "She's not even your daughter, and he was a better hookup too." She being our daughter, of course. My wife's facial expression told me immediately that she had realized what she had said. Then she claimed she was just mad and said it just to be mean. It's not true, blah blah blah. It made me start to think about when our daughter was conceived. We had been having marital problems even back then. We had actually kind of informally separated for a short time, and I was pretty sure I was done with the whole thing, but we both changed our minds. I can't help but wonder if she was with somebody else during that time. She could have just said what she said to be cruel, but that's a pretty serious thing to say. I'm looking at my daughter and wondering if features I thought she got from me really aren't for me at all. She looks so much like my wife that it's hard to see much of anyone else in her at all anyway. I love my daughter. I love being a dad, her dad. I feel like I was meant to do it. We have such a great relationship. She loves her mom, but my daughter and I just have a special bond that my wife has said that she's jealous of. That may be why she said what she did. I don't know. It wouldn't change how I felt about my daughter, but my wife would definitely no longer be my wife. It scares me to even think that somebody else could have some sort of parental right to my kid, even though I'm still legally her father regardless of DNA. It's not like a random guy is going to want to come along all these years later and try to establish paternity anyway, but it's still unsettling. I'm probably overthinking it, and my wife was most likely just trying to be extra cruel, which is her defense mechanism in arguments, but I just wish that I could stop thinking about it. True or false? I would not want to stay with a person who said that. She opened that door. Do the DNA test. You're avoiding the DNA test because you don't want to feel more crappy than you already do. The percentage of kids born from their moms cheating is actually extraordinarily high. I feel bad for you, man, but this sort of thing is incredibly common. The number of guys out there raising other men's children without even knowing is just insane. You've become a statistic, and I hope you learn from this. You shouldn't have stayed with her if she was problematic from the jump. Well, what do you think? Should OP get a DNA test or not? Please let us know. I don't care how evil someone is. Saying something like that? Dude, there's a reason she said it. My boyfriend's mother keeps putting an ingredient that I'm allergic to in her dishes, with updates. This has been somewhat of a nightmare, so any advice would be amazing. My boyfriend is also 23 for clarity. I have a garlic allergy. It's not lethal, and I definitely wouldn't get anaphylaxis or something from it. The problem is that I get asthma if I eat it, and I'll really mess up my digestion later. Everyone in my life knows that I can't have garlic and I won't have garlic. It makes eating out a nightmare because of how prevalent it is. So usually my boyfriend and I have date nights at our apartment and we cook for each other. But my boyfriend's mom has a family tradition and she insists we all come to dinner at least once a month. She's a fantastic cook and usually a really nice lady to be around, but there's one problem. She wants me to come every time, but she always adds garlic to every dish. At this point, I've just started taking an inhaler and just eating the Hawaiian rolls that she always serves. My boyfriend drives us and we just go get fast food right after. We've talked to her over and over about the garlic. I've asked her over and over to please not use garlic, and she says she doesn't understand how it's such a big deal because it's not like you'll die. I've tried skipping the meals, but she throws a fit and drags her entire family into it. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 years now, and I'm best friends with his sister. I'm at my wit's end. How do I get this through to her? Edit. I have brought my own food before, usually something like simple mac and cheese. I did it twice, but both times she was angry and basically made for an incredibly unhappy evening. Update. To those of you who said she just didn't like me, you are 100% correct. After my boyfriend woke up yesterday, we had a long talk about how bothersome his mother's refusal to take out garlic is. He agreed that we should skip the dinner until she takes it out. Something about it still bothered me, so I ended up calling her and just bluntly asking her. She kept evading the question, saying she's just a garlic lover, that she doesn't understand what the big deal is, etc. Finally, after like 30 minutes of back and forth, she finally admitted that she just doesn't like me. I think I'm correct in drawing the conclusion that she was trying to drive me away from her family with garlic shenanigans, but maybe I'm just overthinking, I don't know. Anyways, I asked if it was because of my job. I'm a receptionist, my age, background, whatever. And she just flat out told me that she doesn't like that I have my septum and my tongue done, and that I color my hair unnatural colors. She thinks it's unprofessional and proves that I'm too much of a wild child to date her son. Which sucks, because I really like this woman, but I guess she was just polite out of courtesy rather than actually liking me herself. After I ended the call, I went to go find my boyfriend, and he basically fessed up and said that, yeah, his mother was not a fan and kept basically hinting that we should break up. Mostly by mentioning stuff like, "My friend Jenny has such a cute daughter," and that sort of thing, which really hurts, but I'm glad I know now. Anyways, my boyfriend and his sister have both agreed to just start up a group dinner once a month. I'm going to stop going to the dinners, and my boyfriend will just go without me. Update. I broke up with him and basically spent the day fielding texts from him asking what was going on and why I was freaking out over his mom. As I said in the update, I got the ick. The more I thought about how he didn't defend me to his mother, refused to tell me about her underhanded tactics, the more I just didn't like him anymore. It was like a switch flipped. So when he woke up, he got a call from me saying this wouldn't work out. We had a long conversation that basically turned into him being defensive. In the end, I was firm. I also sent a text to his sister along the lines of, "If you've got questions, ask your brother," before I blocked her, of course, too. It's kind of crappy that I lost my best friend and my boyfriend, but on the bright side, at least it wasn't cheating, and they just suck. Thank you everyone for the advice, and hopefully I find a better man with a better family. Honestly, this is one of those situations in which you would be justified to leave. Your boyfriend could have told you that she didn't like you. He could have told you he suspected she was doing it on purpose. My boyfriend would never have me at his parents' home for food if they did something like this. They wouldn't. They're lovely people and know that I can't eat certain foods. Your boyfriend has done absolutely nothing to protect you from this behavior. You can do better. So your boyfriend knew his mother didn't like you, but kept deliberately putting you in a position where your health could be impacted? Why would you stay with such a spineless mummy's boy who won't stand up for you? You can't avoid his mother forever. Kudos for having the guts to call her out though. That was brave. I know you don't want to hear this, and I'll get downvoted for this, but this is far from the last person who will judge you and dislike you based on your septum and tongue piercings. Those modifications are seen as radical and extremely unappealing by the majority, mostly people older than you. It's a choice you made, and the consequences are people judging you based on your looks. She thinks that you're a vampire and she's using garlic to repel you, with partial success. Am I the jerk for telling my pregnant sister that her husband can't sleep at my house and in turn kicking her out too? I'm 30, female. My pregnant sister, who's 34, and her husband, who's 42, planned 2 weekend trips to visit me on the West Coast, also as a pit stop to get to and from Hawaii. My sister, Jane, is pregnant, and this trip is their baby moon. Jane's husband is Charles, and my husband is Victor. Background. I don't like how Charles speaks to Jane in general. He often argues and raises his voice throughout the day about trivial things. I've talked to Jane about his behavior before, and she's told me, I realize how he sounds when he talks to people. We fight about it all the time, and I think he just needs anger management. It always ends with her apologizing or making excuses. Weekend 1. The entire time we spent with Charles was quite exhausting and miserable for me. He argued with my sister multiple times. When Victor speaks, I can see Charles rolling his eyes, nudging Jane's elbow, and whispering snide remarks to her. He seems to think these all go unnoticed by us. He usually talks down to me, cuts me off, and enjoys flaunting his knowledge. My brother, mom, and some cousins also find him a difficult person to be around. Charles and Jane leave my house, and the next day I'm overwhelmed by the stress and how uncomfortable Charles always makes me feel. Victor finds me crying and thinks they should not come back to sleep in our home because it's so stressful for me, but agrees we should still hang out with them out of our house. I cried about it because I don't want to put my sister in a difficult situation, especially with her being pregnant and trying to enjoy a vacation. I end up telling Jane how I feel. Charles is rude and disrespectful to me, you, and Victor. I still want to spend time with you while you're in town, but I need separate time to decompress after being with Charles. I love you, but this is the boundary I need to set for this dynamic to work. She cries and says if she doesn't sleep here, she will need a break from me. I apologize to her and emphasize this is about needing a break from Charles, not Jane, both during a phone call and text. Charles calls me and it goes terribly. He talks over me, tells me he's disappointed because I'm not supporting my sister's pregnancy by not allowing him to sleep at my place. Jane is bringing life into this world. Our feelings aren't what matter. Jane is what matters right now. If we don't sleep there, we won't be seeing you. Weekend 2 starts today. I haven't heard from Jane. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but I do think you could have done things differently. From the way you worded it here, it does sound like you may have uninvited her. I might have said explicitly, you're welcome to stay here, but Charles is not. There's certainly no requirement, but given that this return stay was already planned, you might have considered allowing them to stay this time with some stipulations on Charles' behavior. This is a crappy situation since you obviously don't want to harm your relationship with your sister, but you shouldn't have to deal with her jerk husband either. OP. Sorry, there was a character limit, but I did tell my sister over the phone that she was welcome to stay and I just needed a break from Charles to decompress at home at the end of the day. She told me she doesn't want to sleep separately from him, which is understandable. Although there was a lot said on the phone with Charles where he basically implies, this is just who I am. Seriously, why isn't anyone calling him out on his behavior? Charles, we can see and hear you. You're being rude. I was talking, please don't interrupt me. Do not talk to me in that way, it's rude. He does this because everyone lets him. Not the jerk, but this outcome is not surprising. Very few married people would be willing to sleep apart from their spouse on vacation, especially in entirely different places. Even less when one party is nearing the end of a pregnancy. Spouses like to share accommodations, and anytime you're trying to split a married couple up in terms of sleeping arrangements, there's always a very good chance they will both decide to make alternate arrangements elsewhere so that they can stay together. You're not a jerk for setting boundaries with your sister's crappy husband, but married couples often see themselves as a unit, and they may not allow you to set boundaries with only one of them while keeping the other in your life. That's your sister's choice. She's siding with her husband. She's not going to stay where he's not welcome. She's not going to hang out with people who are on bad terms with him. And it's her right to draw her own boundary with people who do not welcome her husband, as misguided as we might think that is. Hopefully in the future she will relent, but if she holds firm, you may need to decide how much Charles you are willing to tolerate to have your sister in your life. My wife commented about me on a Reddit post, and I don't know if I can get over what she said. Today I found a post from my wife. Actually, it was a response to a post. The post was, if you could tell your younger self something from 5 years ago, what would it be? My wife's comment was, don't have a second kid and get divorced. It really broke me reading that. I know we're going through a really rough patch. We both aren't perfect, but that's something that just broke me. It's sad because now I feel nothing. I'm not angry, I'm not sad, I'm not resentful. I just feel nothing. What do I do? We're already in marriage counseling and single therapy as well. Reddit should really be anonymous. That's kind of the whole point. If she knew he was on Reddit and she posted it on her main account, then she wanted him to find it. Do you want to get divorced? If so, pull the plug. If not, do the work and fix your marriage. OP, I've been trying for months. She's the one fighting back, saying stuff about how she wants to find herself and explore. But after reading that, I don't know if I want to be with her anymore. That's understandable. That would be a gut punch to read. Maybe tell her that you saw it and go from there. Can't really get much worse. OP. I actually did. I told her that she has a week to change my mind and to pray for a miracle. But I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I have to worry about my kids too, not just me. It doesn't sound like she wants to be with you if she's not making an effort to stay with you and posted that. I think giving her an ultimatum just speeds up her exit. Or maybe it will wake her up and realize that this isn't what she actually wants. Update. For all of you who are angry that I gave my wife an ultimatum, I should have said that she had already given me an ultimatum 2 months ago. Not going to go into what hers was. So on to what happened. I did confront her, and that night we had a fight. After going back and forth, I finally asked her what she wanted. This is where she broke down and started crying. She said she didn't want to get divorced, and her comment was impulsive, and she regretted it. She was hurt that I was giving her one-worded responses. She texted me because she was lonely and depressed. I told her I was in the bathroom, and I was sorry she felt like I was ignoring her, but I wasn't. So after a lot of talking and forgiving each other, because I'm not perfect either, and we've both made mistakes in the past, we're not going to get divorced. We are going to work on getting better for each other and for our kids. Our first marriage counseling was yesterday, and I have some big issues I need to take care of to be a better husband. She does too. We're not out of the woods yet, but we're heading in the right direction. I gave her an ultimatum because she gave me one 2 months ago that kept changing. First was she needs to see a change in me, and when she did see that change, it morphed into, well, I need to feel a spark in me, or I'm leaving. Should have mentioned that. By exploring, she wanted to date other men. I was her first in everything, and she feels like she missed out on a lot. I think she said what she said out of spite and being impulsive. She was hurt and angry because I was giving her one-word responses. I was in the middle of going to the bathroom when she was texting me. Update. I'm going to show you guys a text conversation, and I want your opinion. Note, this guy started talking to my wife a month ago. This guy is from the UK, and for context, my wife was telling him how she was really tired of not being able to sleep that night and has bags under her eyes. My wife. It's going boring. I have such giant bags under my eyes. I want to collapse into bed, but after… Guy. That sounds so tiring. I want to be chilling. Come and chill with me. My hubs and both kids would be coming with me. I don't know if you'd want all those visitors. Haha, I mean, I'm sure I can make some sacrifices to make you a little happier. Wow, thanks. I mean, I wouldn't do those things, but that doesn't make me delicate. Okay, maybe delicate is the wrong word then. How about gentle? I mean, that's better, but I could totally handle you. I mean, I'm only one rambunctious American. I don't think you could handle 4. I think I could, honestly. Oh, the bravado of youth. I think you underestimate me. OP, shut this down. This guy's a snake. OP. After a talk, she blocked him. This dude is trying to get with your wife. The bigger question is, why is your wife entertaining conversations like this? OP. She's oblivious when guys flirt with her. She thinks that they're just being nice. You haven't answered the question that was asked by several people. What is the nature of the relationship between your wife and this guy who is obviously trying to get with her? How does she know him? OP. She met him as a friend. She likes talking to people from other cultures and parts of the world. They've known each other for a couple of weeks. She only thought of him as a friend. This marriage is a hot mess. I'm exhausted by your marriage, and I don't even know you guys. Imagine being in it. Can't wait for the divorced update with both sides benefiting from it. That story just made me mad. What a bad marriage. Dang. Am I the jerk for telling my son that his girlfriend is taking advantage of him? My son, Lucas, who's 19, has been dating Maya, who's 19, for a year. Just some background. I'm a single mom, and Lucas' dad is extremely wealthy. Just a minor example of this is that his dad owns the entire block that Lucas lives on. Lucas has a job at his dad's company, making close to $200,000 per year, while only working 20 hours a week. Maya is not from a well-off family. She's been on her own since she was 16, and she had just had enough to be okay before she met my son. She refused most of my son's help, but she let him do little things, like help pay for her car repairs and better groceries. Then she got pregnant. Apparently, the first couple of months were very rough, so she had to quit her job. Then her car wasn't safe enough for a baby. She had to move in with him. Due to complications, she lost it at 6 months. She was in and out of the hospital for the first month, but it's been over 7 months now, and she still lives with him, doesn't work, and barely contributes with household chores. I tried to tell Lucas during and after the pregnancy that Maya was milking it. I got pregnant with him when I was Maya's age, and I made it just fine on my own. I still worked, went to school, took care of my apartment, and later raised a kid all on my own. I think Maya saw an opportunity to get out of her old living situation and she took it. He's always refused to believe me, and the last time I tried to talk some sense into him, he told me if I can't respect Maya, he won't be in contact with me. It's been 2 weeks, and I'm wondering if I should have kept my mouth shut. Maya has done nothing to indicate that she's just after your son's money and would probably be good for your son, as your son seems to have everything handed to him. You're just projecting your own insecurities on a totally innocent person. You're the jerk. Maybe you're the devil. OP. It's been 7 months. There's no reason for her to not be working or helping around the house. Update. A lot has changed in the past 3 months. First, Maya and Lucas moved. I've seen pictures of their house on social media. It's gorgeous. Shortly after they moved, I saw that they are now engaged. I have not been invited to the wedding. I know some of my family members have been invited, but they're not allowed to tell me where or when the wedding is. Between family and social media, I can tell that they're doing very well. My son is finishing his final semester in college. He did dual enrollment starting from sophomore year and graduated high school a semester early. Maya just started a small business, and they got 2 dogs and some chickens. Maya and Lucas posted a pregnancy announcement today. Maya is 14 weeks pregnant. I called Lucas and left a message congratulating him and asking to meet up. I sent Maya a similar message. As of now, it looks like I will not be involved in my grandkid's life. I'd love to know what other stuff the OP is getting up to, because this reads like son goes no contact very quickly. I expect that he's been having issues with his mom like this for a long time. The new fence. A few years ago, I was building a new fence for a friend of mine. I had to remove the old sections that were falling apart, and when I got to the intersection of his back fence and the next door neighbor's back fence, I carefully separated the neighbor's fence from his and proceeded to carry on removing the side sections that went between their 2 properties. My friend had told me that the side section was 100% on his property and that the previous owner, 30 years ago, had deliberately given the next door neighbor's property an extra foot or so to ensure that he was building on his own property without calling for and paying for a survey. The neighbor, Susan, whom I will refer to as Karen for the rest of this story, came running outside screaming at me that I couldn't remove the side fence and it was their property and just what do I think I'm doing? I responded back very calmly that my friend had just told them well in advance that he was going to replace the fence, that he was just going to build it in the same place as the old one, and asked if they were willing to split the costs, to which they declined. No biggie. Karen started screaming at me again, telling me I had no right to do that and that my friend didn't give them proper notice, and that she didn't realize that there wouldn't be anything between their 2 properties to contain their dog. By now, I'm about ready to lose my mind, so I knocked on my friend's back door to let him know what was going on, and that he needed to go talk to Karen, and that I was leaving because I didn't want to do or say anything I would regret, or cause problems with the neighbors for my friend. The entire project got put on hold, pending a property survey that was going to cost $650, and that they demanded my friend pay half of, despite him telling them that the fence was definitely on his property and nothing was going to change with the new fence, and that he was fine with them continuing to have a foot or so of his property so that he didn't have to rock the boat. Fast forward to the following Monday when the surveyor comes out. Turns out the old side fence was not a little on my friend's property, but almost 10 feet onto his property, and the neighbors had built up raised flower beds and done a nice brick retaining wall right up to the fence line that they had spent a lot of money just in materials for. Never mind the time they spent constructing it. Needless to say, my friend was very pleased with this. For the mere price of $325, he was entitled to expand his yard of more than 30 years by about 800 square feet, and Karen and her husband, who happened to be the polar opposite of his wife in personality and was super nice, spent the next week moving their garden, retaining wall, and all of the dirt that was on my friend's property, so that I could build the fence on his side of the actual property line. Then they hired the cheapest contractors they could find to slap up a fence on their side of the property line. They spent almost as much as my friend did on their new fence. I gave my friend the friends and family discount. 3 years later, the last 20 feet or so of their fence is on the ground already because it was such a bad job and it fell over in a moderate windstorm this past spring. My friend's fence is still standing, rock solid, and his dogs are definitely making good use of the extra 800 square feet. My boyfriend disappeared every weekend for the past 3 years, and I just found out that he's been lying to me about it. My boyfriend, who's 27, male, and I, 24, female, have been together for 3 years. We don't live together, but we're close enough to spend a lot of time together. However, it's very rare for us to spend a whole day together. When we have, it's been a weekday where our schedules have just happened to line up, like no work and no class. We have never spent a day on the weekend together. He works as a research assistant while getting his PhD. Every single weekend for the past 3 years we've been together, he insists he has to work. I realize how stupid I've been now, but foolishly I trusted him. I trusted that he had work every single weekend for 3 years. That was until today. I've been studying for finals, and it's the toughest it's ever been, so I was craving some time with him. Just a day where we could kick back and relax with each other. Of course, he says he can't because he's working, and I shut up about it. So today I'm getting antsy anyway, and hoping we could at least spend the evening together. I end up texting him, asking him when he thinks he'll be back, and we can spend the night. I've done this plenty of times before, and he always responds fairly quickly. This time I'm waiting for a while. After 2 hours, I decide to text a work friend of his who's also a research assistant with him. Wouldn't you know it, it turns out they don't have work today. In fact, he informs me in the same text that they rarely ever have work on the weekends. So now I'm sitting here wondering what's going on. I have no idea how to confront him about this. I mean, this has been going on for 3 years. If he's cheating on me, he basically has a second family at this point. But obviously, that's where my mind goes, and I have no clue what else could be happening. Like, is there any possible explanation for this besides cheating? How in the world do I confront him about something he's been doing for 3 years? Since he's doing whatever it is tomorrow, do I just drive over to his place in the morning and wait and then follow him? Has anyone had anything like this happen to them before? Do you spend any holidays together? Celebrate your birthdays together? Have you met his friends or his parents? Do you give each other gifts? Have you had discussions about living together or the future? So many questions that the answers could give a better understanding of your relationship. At this stage, the final exams are what matters the most, and you should try to focus on that. The future ex is a waste of space, and it sucks you had to find out this way. I hope you don't let him impact your professional future. I'm sending all the wishes of success your way. OP, there are so many examples of men leading double lives where they have 2 families. Guess what reason they used to excuse it? Work. That's the cover-up basically every single time. I know it sounds absolutely insane, bonkers, and impossible. That's because to us sane, decent people, it is. But the people capable of lying and deceiving like this aren't like us, and they take advantage of the knowledge that we can't even fathom such a thing. It helps them get away with their lie and keep it going. Think about it. Really, the only plausible explanation that he's away for work literally every single weekend for 3 years is because he's leading a double life. Only a family life with another woman and kids makes sense for such a long-term, habitual pattern. You've tolerated a relationship for years where you don't even spend an entire day together. To him, you're the perfect side piece since you're willing to tolerate that for so long without questioning it or putting your foot down. You're in denial, and I don't blame you. I would be too initially. You know this smells fishy, and it is. Knowing myself, I would get crafty and find a way to discover the truth, get proof, and let the other woman know. Best of luck to you. So many examples of men leading double lives? Gee, maybe you should stop going for the guys who will lie to you and cheat on you. But all guys do that. Yeah, all the ones who look like Brad Pitt. Maybe start giving average-looking dudes a chance. Chill guys who like video games and don't go to the gym every day. Stop friend-zoning us and seeing us as brothers and actually try having a relationship with us. Edit. Call me a nice guy all you want. Every girl that's ever turned me down has gone on to date guys that treated her horribly. Then she'd complain to me about it because we're still friends and expect me to listen to it and help her feel better. As soon as I mention that if she were with me, I would never treat you like this, she gets mad, starts ignoring me. Every time. Don't you just love when Reddit commenters go on these long rants about their own lives and it has nothing to do with the story? Am I the jerk for telling my stepmom she's pathetic and doesn't get to boss my mom around? My parents divorced when I, 15 male, was 5 and my sister was 3. For a while, during and post-divorce, my dad was trying really hard to win my mom back. I remember he would use how upset my sister and I were about the divorce. For me, it was hard to go from our family being together to 2 separate homes and families. For my sister, the upheaval was hard for her. She really couldn't get used to bouncing from home to home. Throughout all of that, Mom did her best to shield us, and even though she must have hated my dad's guts for all the stunts he pulled, she kept some photos of him and our family from before up in the house. My sister and I felt reassured seeing them. Even though she didn't remember those times, I think it made her feel a little more okay with how confusing it was, and Dad only made it worse. Dad gave up on them getting back together eventually, and he insisted that everything we had at his house be from him and not Mom, and we could not have photos of Mom in the home. I was 8 when he met my stepmom. I'm not sure how soon she found out that Mom still had photos up of before it became a huge deal for her, and she told my mom she was not allowed to have photos of her man up in the house. My mom remarried when I was 10. We have a few photos of my stepdad's ex-wife at home and some from when he was married to her and my step-siblings were young. This is especially important to them because their mom is terminally ill with a condition that made her unable to take care of them. I think it's something to do with her brain. There are still photos of Dad at Mom's too. I'm less into it now that I feel worse about what Dad did, but my sister still feels comforted by them, and Mom always says he is still our dad and our family, and she wants it to be as much our home as it is everyone else's who lives there. The wall where these photos are is where Mom takes a lot of our back-to-school photos. My stepmom found out they were still up and went nuts on my mom a few months ago. She told Mom she had to do what she says, etc. It was insane. My mom told her to mind her business, and if she stays out of her house, she doesn't have to see them or worry about them. My stepmom went on a rant about Mom a few days ago, and she was like, "How dare your mom not do what I tell her and take the photos of my husband down?" I told my stepmom she's pathetic for being so bothered that my mom was a good enough mom to accept photos of Dad for our sake, and that she doesn't get to boss my mom around. I also told her to leave my mom alone because none of this had anything to do with her. She told me I did not get to speak to her that way. I told her if she thinks she's earning my respect with her crap, then she's even more pathetic than I thought. It's been a rough few days. My dad and stepmom both say I was beyond disrespectful. Am I the jerk? Something tells me that your dad is not the nicest person in the world based on your post. Your mom clearly isn't interested in winning him back and just wanted to give you and your sister some comfort when you were younger. Just like having photos of your mom's husband's ex-wife makes your step-siblings feel better, especially given that their mom is terminal. Your mom sounds like a very secure and kind person who just wants the best for her biological and her stepkids. Your stepmother, on the other hand, not the jerk. Karen stole my cat, so I stole her back. I got Pebbles from a humane society when she was 2 months old. I love her with my whole heart. She's now 5 years old, soon to be 6. 14 months ago, I had to move to an apartment that didn't allow pets in the contract. I had no choice but to rehome Pebbles, and I was heartbroken. But my grandma ended up taking her from me, so it wasn't so bad, because I could visit Pebbles anytime. She was safe in a house, all indoors, and well taken care of. 3 months ago, Grandma passed. And of course, that was hard enough. But on top of that, Pebbles got grabbed without anyone's consulting me and brought to my uncle and aunt's house to live. They put her outside with their other farm cats. I drove out on my day off to see her, and she was looking scared and bedraggled. But they insisted that she was fine. I went home heartbroken and I was angry. Recently, I was able to move into a better apartment that's pet-friendly with a roommate. I asked if I could have Pebbles back, but my aunt said no, that my cousins, who are 15 and 18, have grown attached. But frankly, oh well. So I said, fine, okay. Then last week during work hours, I took off on my lunch break, drove to the farm while they were at work and school, found Pebbles, put her in my car, and drove home to my new apartment. It took them 2 days to even figure out that she was gone. Then, of course, my aunt called me and asked if I had taken Pebbles. I said yes. She started to yell, so I just said, "She's my cat," and I gave her to Grandma for a while, not you, and then I hung up. I think I'm legally in the clear here, because I took Pebbles back to the vet I took her to her whole life for a checkup, got her papers up to date, got her microchipped, and put her in my name. But my parents called me and told me that they were disappointed in me, that it was immature to steal Pebbles, and that the girls are apparently heartbroken. I'm sorry my cousins are sad, but I would do it again. Pebbles is my cat, and they weren't taking care of her correctly. I never wanted to give her up anyway. If I'm the jerk, that's fine. Not the jerk. Sounds more like you rescued your cat to me. Yes, putting a cat that's grown up indoors outdoors with other cats who are used to being outdoors is cruel. Cats are territorial and were probably quite hard on your cat. Not to mention that outdoor cats have a significantly shorter life expectancy than an indoor cat. OP did the right thing. She rescued Pebbles, and getting her chipped and vetted right away was exactly the right move. OP, I'm so glad you have your kitty back. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for taking money from my wife's account to pay for my computer that she broke? My wife is a stay-at-home mom. She works hard taking care of our kids and maintaining our home. I do what we have agreed is a fair portion of the housework and all of the yard work. She has full access to all of our accounts except for my personal spending account. I put the exact same amount into her personal spending account, but I can only deposit, not withdraw. I have a home office, but I don't work from home. It's just a place I can go to sit and catch up on anything I might need to work from home on, and also play video games or play with my toys. My wife also has a room that's dedicated to her and her hobbies. I've asked her multiple times to please leave my room alone. I clean it myself, I take my dishes to the kitchen and either wash them or place them in the dishwasher. I take out my own trash. When I play with my kids in my office, I clean up after all of us. When my wife joins me in my office for video games, I clean up afterwards. There's quite literally no reason for her to do anything in there when I am not in it. I do not have a lock on my door, but I do have my laptop password protected. I like to line up some of my collection of Lego minifigures by my screen on my laptop. I like to imagine that Batman and Spider-Man are watching me work. I know it's silly, but I like it. For some reason, my wife decided to go clean my office. I guess she needed to move my laptop, so she closed it. Not all the way, because my minifigures were in the way. When I came home, she told me what had happened. The screen was not working at all. I had to get my old monitor out and hook it up so I could check and see if anything else was busted. It was just the screen. I checked, and it would cost about $250 for parts and labor to replace my screen. So I decided to replace the laptop and use the old one with my old monitor for the kids. It was fine other than the non-working screen. The cost to replace my laptop was only $600. Yay, Black Friday. So I took $350 from my account and I took $250 from the money I was going to deposit into her personal account for December, and I got my new computer. This will in no way affect our budget for anything other than our own personal side projects and hobbies. I was looking forward to getting myself a new Lego set to work on with my kids over the holidays, but now I will have to rebuild one of my old ones with them, which is also fun. Well, now she's upset at me because she has to cut back on her fun stuff for December. She likes to have a spa day with her mom, for example. I said that I wasn't responsible for my computer being broken and that she 100% was. She said it was an accident and that I should forgive her. I said I wasn't upset, but that if she felt I should forgive her, then I fully forgive her, but she still has to help me pay for a new laptop. Am I the jerk? I did not just take her money. We talked about it first. She is still upset that I expect her to take responsibility. I did not make an unfair decision. We do not work that way. I think you are a bit of a jerk. She's a stay-at-home parent. She does not earn money that can be saved up for things like spa days with her mother. She relies on those funds that are budgeted for personal fun. It feels to me like you're treating her like a kid. How would you feel if you accidentally broke something she valued and she insisted you pay for it? If she had broken it intentionally, it would be one thing, but it was an accident and she was trying to be helpful by cleaning your office. It really does sound like a jerk move to me. You're the jerk. You sound like you're punishing a kid by withholding their allowance, not talking with your wife. Grow up. Stuff happens. You're in a marriage and a partnership. Don't pretend you didn't take her money and aren't a jerk. That's exactly what you are. You didn't talk about it and mutually agree. She clearly does not agree. At best, you bullied her into giving into your childish and petty demands. Enjoy those Legos. They're going to cost you way more than a few $100. You're the jerk. Stop treating your wife like a kid. What on earth? If losing $250 is not going to affect your life, then what's the point of treating your wife like this? Like honestly, this seems like a misuse of power. I'd bet money that losing $250 means more to your wife than it does to you. Just wow. Sometimes people can be so trash. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. New job, bait and switch. I worked for a national home improvement store, the blue one. When I interviewed, I applied for the sales position in plumbing, no longer exists. It was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, with a commission program. Since I had years of plumbing experience, I was offered the job. The day I started, I was told the sales job went to an internal promotion. Only thing they could offer me was part-time, lower hourly rate, no commission, had to work alternating weekends. I was young and had a new baby, so I said sure, as long as I could go full-time in a few months with weekends off. My manager agreed. Fast forward 3 months. Not a word has been said. The guy who got the sales job, an electrician, asked me questions about plumbing all day. I asked my department manager about full-time, a sales job, anything. Sorry, nothing available. I reminded him of what I was hired for, the schedule I was promised, the pay I was originally offered. DM: if you don't like it, look for another job. Jobs at the time were hard to come by, but a job that was available, in that store even, was a stocking job. This position was always available as the pay wasn't great and it was a lot of physical work. But the hours were Monday through Friday full-time, so I applied for that. When I interviewed, my manager found out. He went to HR to stop me from transferring. I informed HR that if the position didn't get filled and I was excluded from transferring, I would filter a complaint. So I got the job. Fast forward 2 months and the quarter ends. No actual plumber in the department meant sales dropped, so manager didn't get his bonus. He now begs me to come back. No thanks, I'm making more money on Saturday doing side jobs than I made Monday through Friday. So he asks, "What can I do to get you back in plumbing?" I give him a ridiculous price. He laughs and says, "That's more than I make." Oh well. Fast forward 3 more months, store manager doesn't get her bonus because plumbing hasn't made budget in 2 quarters in a row. Time to fix the problem. I get called into a meeting with store manager and department manager. Store manager: what will it take to get you back in plumbing? Me: stupid salary. DM: I told you, not reasonable. Store manager: give us a minute, please. I stand up to leave and store manager: oh no, I'm sorry. I meant department manager should leave. Department manager, surprised Pikachu face. Store manager: if I pay you that, you'll have to work weekends. We're busiest on weekends. Me: I'll do Saturday, with every Sunday and Monday off. No rotating days off like before. I get my commission back. Store manager: done. You cannot talk about your rate. I'm the only person in the store making more than this. Me: well, I can, but I won't. The look on department manager's face when we came out was priceless. If he had only given me the job I was hired for originally. But I am the manager. I'm the AGM at a recently opened hotel in my city. I wear the fancy suit, have the fancy name tag, it's magnetic, and definitely don't look like a guest staying there. But I'm also the only member of the team who wears a suit over a generic uniform. We had a woman, I'm estimating mid to late 60s, come in and was snooping around, so needless to say, I approached to ask if I could help her. She said she was just wanting to see the pool. I explained that our pool is closed and still under construction. The door next to the pool itself is blocked off with a "coming soon" sign. Lady: I saw that online, but I just wanted to see it. You know how sometimes things say one thing online and another in person? Hotels really don't keep up on that stuff. Me: I'm aware that this is sometimes the case, but I assure you, madam, the pool is closed and still under construction. We are excited and hopeful to see it open in January. Lady: is there someone I can talk to? I really want to take my granddaughter here over Christmas to use the pool. Me: I'm the AGM here actually, and unfortunately, as I said, the pool isn't expected to be open until the new year. There literally, physically, is no pool right now. Lady goes up to the FDA and asks about the pool and booking to use it over Christmas. FDA says, slightly confused, as my manager, gestures to me, explained the pool won't be open. Lady looks back at me, then back at FDA. Is there a manager I can speak to? Again, my name tag literally says manager in fun bold letters. Me: madam, I am the assistant general manager, and in fact, the current acting general manager. The actual general manager was away aiding with another property opening. Lady looks at the FDA. I just don't understand. Why can't I speak to the manager? Me and FDA exchange a confused look. Me: madam, I assure you, I am the only manager on the property. Lady: I can't believe this. I want to speak to a manager. Me again: I am the manager. I said I want to speak to the manager. Me again, more forcefully. Madam, I am the manager. I'm the one you want to speak to. Lady turns to front desk agent. Call the manager right now. This service is so unacceptable. I just want to bring my granddaughter to use the pool over Christmas. Me. Madam, again, I am the manager. And as I've repeatedly told you, we do not have a pool that will be available over Christmas. There is no pool. Lady gets angrier. Why didn't you just say that? It says you have a pool online. This is not acceptable. I'm going to speak to the manager and get you all fired. Me. At this point, I'm Ryle Reynolds done with this. Sure, please do. I'll be more than happy to fire myself, then collect severance for unlawful termination. It will make for a great Christmas bonus. I'll take my wife and kid to Fiji. Lady, red in the face. Your manager will hear from me. How dare you ruin my granddaughter's Christmas? I'll make sure to tell everyone you won't let anyone use your pool. The lady then stormed out. I recognize the lady may be in her early stages of something serious, but in the entire interaction, she was very clear-minded. I don't think I've ever had anyone so forcefully deny my existence like this before. Am I the jerk for watching TV while my daughter eats dinner? I have a 2-year-old daughter. Most days, my wife feeds her breakfast, I feed her dinner. She mostly feeds herself, but we watch her to make sure she doesn't spill stuff all over or if she has any requests. I love my daughter. I would like that to be clear. She's my favorite person in the world. I spend a ton of time every day horsing around with her, teaching her letters and numbers, reading books. I put her to bed every other night, brush her teeth, etc. I spend a lot of quality time with her in my opinion. However, she is very boring to watch eat. It takes her about 30 minutes, what amounts to maybe 1.5 cups of food, and drink her milk. She spends about half the time playing with her fork, singing the alphabet, or blathering nonsense. We are also trying to be mindful of using electronics around or in front of her. In particular, no phones at the dinner table. About a week ago, I was preparing dinner with my AirPods in and realized that I could continue listening to music and podcasts while I was watching her eat, to make it at least a little more interesting. The other day, I decided to stick my phone in the napkin holder on the table so my daughter couldn't see it and watch Netflix. I thought this was genius. I only have one AirPod in, so I can still hear everything she says. I still am keeping an eye on her. I'm still sitting in front of her, looking in her general direction, but I'm watching TV. Now, instead of dreading dinner time, I'm fine with it. Anyway, yesterday, my wife came home with my mother-in-law and caught me watching TV. When she came in, I pointed to the AirPod, then to the phone, and gave a thumbs up, thinking she too would think I'm a genius. Well, my wife's not happy. I'm not sure if it's her or it's her mom, who was really not happy, but she thinks I should be spending that time with my daughter. I think I am. I think my daughter is completely unaware that I'm watching TV, so no harm, no foul. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk, slightly. Dinner time shouldn't be essentially a solitary experience where you're at the table with family. At 2, not everything she says is blathering nonsense. Most parents would use this time with the kid to encourage discussion about the food, about the day, whatever. It's not too young to teach her about socializing over a meal. And we're talking about half an hour for you. Make an effort here. I kind of sympathize with OP, but this is what you signed up for when you have a kid. Perhaps something more interactive could help. Like, for example, if you feel bored watching her eat, maybe you can read both of you guys a story while she eats. That way it's more of an interactive experience and you won't be too bored. Maybe you can make up a story yourself and tell it, etc. Talk to your kid while they're eating. Open up a conversation, albeit mostly one-sided. Show interest in your kid. Quality time. You're the jerk. Your daughter is interacting, watching your facial expressions, talking to you, and eating. Yes, it is the most boring thing ever, but your being part of it is important for her development. Not the jerk at all. Single mom of a 2.5-year-old. Having her chatter to herself while eating is completely normal, and she would be doing the exact same thing if she was at nursery. If you're spending quality time with her during the day, you've met her needs, and for that period of time, you can meet your own. These comments are absolutely absurd. I spend all day either caring for my little one or at work. When it gets to dinner time is the only time I can get some uninterrupted studying time. Some people think dinner time is the most sacred thing in the world because they spend so much time away from their family for the majority of the day, but for many, it can be the opposite. You're the jerk for making a post and then arguing with everyone because you don't like the judgment. Meal times are great times to interact with your kid. And yes, I do realize they go on about all kinds of nonsense. I have a 2.5-year-old who plays really well independently, but there are certain times where giving them your attention matters. My wife ditched our family when she thought someone broke into our house. I'm 34 male. My wife, who's 42, is a stay-at-home mom. Last week when I was at work and our two eldest were at school, who are 5 and 3, my wife was sitting in the dining room table when she saw a man walking down the driveway and going to the front door. He had what she thought was a hammer. She went to the front door and the guy was trying to get in. The guy saw her and waved and tried to get in. She fled the house and ran out the back door. She left her cell phone and Apple Watch. She also left our twin daughters, who are 8 months old. They were sleeping in their cribs. She ran through the neighborhood looking for someone to help her call the police. Eventually, she found someone and they called the police. The police responded and cleared the house. It turns out it was just a repair guy who was supposed to be going to our neighbor's house, and he had been told that no one would be home and to just come on in. She's mad at me for not being more supportive of her. I was stunned when she told me, and I was surprised that she said she just left our girls there. She's always yelling at me about how I don't do enough for the kids, unlike her who sacrifices constantly. I don't think this is accurate, but it's besides the point. We've been having major issues in our marriage for a long time apart from this. She's acting like this is one of the worst things that's ever happened to her, which is making me madder and madder. I'm having a real hard time putting this one behind me. If this guy had been a bad guy, she would have abandoned our kids and just left so she could save herself. Our house isn't that big, and people in the neighborhood and online know that we have kids. I honestly don't know what to do. Edit. This happened about a week ago. I spent an hour on the phone with her that day trying to console her. I tried again that night, and I've been trying to take care of the kids and do all the chores at home. She's been focusing on what I think is a work-from-home job, but that she's lying to me about it and trying to hide it from me. Other than that, she's going out with her friends to bars. She does not believe in therapy and is refusing to go to marriage counseling that I set up for us online after the kids go to sleep. A big issue I'm having is the double standard that if I had done this, she would have never forgiven me and probably divorced me. We had a fight because when we moved to a new house, my side of the bed was on the far side from the door and that I needed to be able to stop an attacker. I've been yelled at for abandoning them when I take a shower in the morning before work and they start crying, or if she's sleeping in and one begins crying while I'm changing the other and it takes me a minute to finish. I totally understand this is a fight or flight and I'm not trying to Monday morning quarterback. I have not critiqued, let alone criticized her. The closest was when I was surprised when she told me she had left the girls. Other than that call, or when I came home and she was annoyed that we don't have security cameras, we haven't really talked about it. Update. Long story short, things are not going well. I feel like I'm an airplane pilot who's trying to land a plane while it's disintegrating around me, and that the time is now for me to bail out. Since the last post, I've tried really hard to support her. I think I've been doing what I can to support her in the past. Anytime she wants to leave, she can. I do the lion's share of the chores at home. That means laundry, cooking, groceries, and morning and bedtime routine for the boys. We do an informal system for the dishes and the daughters. It's close to 50-50 on that. I also pay all the bills and handle all the extracurriculars. One comment that people made was that she just gave birth 8 months ago and that I should be more sympathetic. I totally get that, but since she gave birth, she has done 4 10K races, a marathon relay, and goes to a run group and dinner afterwards twice a week. She has also gone to networking events for her business that she's working on. Since that post, we've had numerous issues. We've had more days with screaming matches, and here's a list of some of the issues we've had. She woke up early on Saturday, but didn't wake me or my son up for his early practice. I slept through my alarm. Didn't do anything to help us get ready. Her only question when we came back was how late were we? The moment I came home, she went back to bed. I had all 4 kids by myself, which is fine. I took the kids to the store to run errands. As soon as I came back in, she got in a shower and left, and refused to take any kids despite their cries. She refused to tell us where she was going. Bro needs to learn there ain't nothing there worth fixing or saving. Time to throw in the towel. This post is like witnessing a train wreck. My man needs to file for divorce immediately. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. These stories make me feel so much better about my life. I know I can't be the only one. Am I the jerk for giving my adult daughter money to make up for missing out on her senior trip? I have 3 kids. We'll call them Brock, who's 24, Misty, who's 21, and Ash, who's 19. Misty graduated from high school in 2020. Due to world events, her senior year was spent at home. Things like her senior trip, spring break, and prom got canceled. Her school never planned a makeup trip or prom for her year and instead went back to business for the class of 2021. Misty, props to her, never complained about it. She accepted things with a sense of resignation, if that makes sense. Regardless, I can see that it hurt her to see her brother and sister get to do the things that she couldn't do. A few weeks ago, Misty reached out and asked if I can help her out with something. Her favorite actor is going to be performing on Broadway next spring, and she desperately wants to see the show. She's in college and has a job, but needs help paying for a ticket. She made it clear that I didn't have to pay for it if I didn't want to, but given what happened 3 years ago and how she took it, I felt bad for her. What she went through wasn't fair. So I bought Misty a ticket for opening night. It was expensive, yes, but frankly, it was about the same amount that was spent for Ash's prom or Brock's Letterman jacket and banquet. My husband doesn't agree. He thinks that I'm spoiling Misty. He doesn't see how it's fair to give our adult daughter money for a trip, but not the same for the other kids. To him, what happened in 2020 happened in 2020, and you can't do anything to fix it. I disagree. Brock and Ash got to go on trips, banquets, and prom for their senior year, and Misty spent hers in lockdown. She really had nothing to commemorate her senior year, and if anything, the money I spent on her ticket came out to less than all of the other senior year expenses for either of our other kids. I need an outside perspective. Am I the jerk, or is my husband in the wrong? Edit. Husband's reasoning. If Misty was under 18, it would be a different story. My husband thinks that now she's an adult, we shouldn't be helping with funding her fun activities, like a vacation or a concert. He's on board with helping to pay for college, a car, house, or a wedding. Adult expenses. Misty wanted to buy a ticket for a cheap seat and was short $100. I decided to take the money we could have spent on one of her senior year activities, for example, to pay for a prom ticket or a dress or a deposit on the trip, and upgraded her ticket to a better seat. Misty is really good with her money. This show she wants to see is a once-in-a-lifetime experience for her, and I agree, after everything she went through, she deserves it. She's worked hard, and she needs a break. Update. It's been a few weeks, and I'm happy to say that we've made progress. I sat my husband down for a talk. Mainly, I wanted to know why he thought I was spoiling Misty, and while he was gung-ho about treating our other kids the same way. I may have also chewed him out for acting like missing senior year was no big deal, because he didn't see how much his daughter looked hurt during Ash's year, and that just because his family cut him off at 18 doesn't mean he can repeat the cycle again for his own kids after spending 25 years trying to prove that he's a better parent than they were. I hate to admit it, but it boiled down to poor communication. My husband just assumed we were giving Misty money to go somewhere on spring break when we've never done that with our other two kids. We told our kids when they were starting college that while we're happy to help them with whatever expenses they will need, we aren't going to fund any activities that will involve binge drinking or acting like jerks, like spring break. I grew up in South Texas. I know that environment. My husband told me that while he isn't upset about how much I spent, he wished I had talked to him about it first since we share finances. Now here's where I messed up. I said in my original post that I sent money to Misty. I actually purchased a ticket for her. Knowing how quickly tickets go, I went on the ticket website and just bought one for her. She originally wanted to get a seat towards the back for $160. I saw some available orchestra seats that were closer to the stage for twice the amount. So I told Misty not to worry about it, and I went and purchased her a better seat in the first row behind some tables. The total came to around $350. My husband and I talked it over and we made up. We're going to better work on our communication skills moving forward and be more transparent with our finances. Now here's the big update. Misty came home from college for Thanksgiving. We sat her down at the kitchen table. I had the spreadsheets detailing the amount we spent for Brock and Ash's senior years and the average. We told Misty that we're sorry we never did anything to make up for her lost year. We told her that we have a budget for her. What does she want to do? Misty decided she wanted to do two things. The first is to use part of the money to spend spring break in New York. This coincides with seeing the show. Her two best friends attend college in New York, so her plan is to take a train. We live in Boston, so it's a 4-hour ride, and spend the week at our friend's dorm. My husband and I are planning a couple of excursions for them, like dinner at a nice restaurant, but this is all going to take time to put together. Misty would also like to use whatever is left to buy a moped. All in all, this turned out really well. Misty is ecstatic about seeing Cabaret. This will be her first Broadway show and her first solo trip. We haven't seen her this happy in a long time. Would I be the jerk for thinking about calling off my engagement because my fiancé lied to his family about us having kids? My fiancé, 23, and I, 22, plan to get married next year. Despite having a set date, there are still many things to organize, but I'm considering postponing or even canceling the wedding. For additional context, when we started our relationship, I told him I had always been certain I don't want to have kids. In my country, which is not the US, a woman wanting to undergo surgery faces many obstacles, and in most cases, doctors refuse to perform the procedure. This is aside from the complications women experience, unlike men who undergo vasectomies. When I told him about not wanting kids, he mentioned he wasn't considering them either. However, when I asked about a vasectomy, he admitted hesitating in case he changed his mind. Understanding his perspective, we dropped the topic. We continued dating for 3 more years, and during a vacation 4 months ago, he proposed on the beach. We decided to marry on our first date anniversary. I revisited the child topic, anticipating marital pressures, and he confirmed our shared stance. We shared the news with my parents, who congratulated us joyfully. The issue arose when we visited his parents. He's the youngest with 2 older brothers and 1 older sister, all married and they have kids. During the dinner we had to celebrate our visit, we announced our engagement and everyone congratulated us. Most conversations revolved around wedding preparations, the venue, the guest list, and so on. In that moment, his sister asked us how many kids we were planning to have. Keep in mind that my fiancé had asked me in the past to avoid stating outright that we wouldn't have kids in front of his parents, knowing it could lead to arguments. I recalled his request, but wasn't sure how to respond this time. We typically said we weren't certain about the topic yet, but I didn't want to lie. Considering the significant step we're taking, I felt we needed to be honest to prevent future issues. My fiancé stepped in and mentioned we would only have 1. His father and his brother started teasing him for wanting just 1, suggesting we should aim for at least 3 like the rest, so we could experience the joy of a large family like everyone else. He laughed along with them, making jokes about wanting more if I didn't make it difficult for him. At first, I planned to discuss it with him after dinner, but after the last comment, I left my plate, stood up, and asked him to join me in the backyard. It took him a moment, but he followed, avoiding direct eye contact, and commented that my sudden departure was a bit rude. When I questioned him about what he had said, he gave evasive responses, reiterating the desire to avoid arguments. I insisted that we should be truthful now to prevent future problems, but he resisted. I told him I wouldn't go along with the lie. As I was about to leave, he revealed he had changed his mind about having kids, wanting several. He had been thinking about it for months before proposing. I reminded him of our previous conversation, and he admitted he hoped to convince me after marriage. I told him I wouldn't change my mind, and out of nowhere, he started insulting me, calling me names, saying that I'm selfish for wanting to deprive him of the best experience in the world. I didn't expect him to treat me this way, so instead of responding, I went back to his family and revealed the whole truth, stating that I would never change my mind. I then packed my bags and left. Now I'm at a hotel, and after talking to my family, who told me they had crossed a line, I decided I needed to vent. I was always upfront with him about my desires and asked for honesty. Not only did he lie, but he also insulted me when he realized he couldn't manipulate me. That's why I'm considering canceling everything and ending the relationship. Would I be the jerk? Update. I've seen comments accusing me of various things, so I would like to provide some more information on certain things. Why didn't I cancel the marriage right there? Clearly, both of us said things in the whirlwind of emotions, and all I wanted at that moment was to go somewhere that I could be alone, calm down, and think instead of escalating the situation by yelling at him. However, I wasn't going to let the lie he had told go unclarified, which is why I spoke the truth before leaving. And most importantly, because I love him. If I'm honest, this is the first time we've argued this way. We got along so well from the start because we had many things in common. We both like anime, video games, animals, Halloween, and dressing up. For me, this was the definition of a soulmate. And to those who think that because I'm young, it means I don't know what I want or that I'll change my mind over the years, don't waste your time. Yes, many decisions can change in life, but I dare say everyone has at least one they know they'll stand by, regardless of time passing. For me, it's this decision, and I have many reasons to support it, which I won't delve into now to avoid further controversy. If possible, I'll try to undergo the procedure again in the future, maybe when I manage to travel to another country. I've had 3 partners in my life, and I've told them all the same thing from the beginning. I only encountered one person who said he wanted kids before we had a more serious relationship, so we broke up to avoid the problems I'm facing now. Be very grateful he showed you who he is before you married him. The lying and sneakiness is bad enough, but insulting you for not wanting kids? No, you would not be the jerk. In fact, I think you would be the jerk if you didn't break up with him. He didn't change his mind. He thought if he got you good enough, you'd change yours and stay with him. He was trying to manipulate you. Cancel the engagement and don't hook up with this guy. Not the jerk. Maybe you want kids and maybe you don't. Either way, never let anyone try to pressure you into changing your mind. I found my fiancé's Christmas gift for me, and I'm so disappointed. He probably thought he was being clever, hiding it with the gifts I had got from my friends already. It would have been clever, except for it was a different bag than the store that I bought from. So not knowing or realizing it might be his gift, I looked and I saw. It's perfume. I'm so disappointed. I very explicitly told him what I wanted. I wanted either the Lego orchid or an oversized anime sweater blanket. Yeah, I wear perfume, but his mother gets me a different bottle every year, so I literally have enough perfume to last me 10 years. I've never asked for perfume. This couldn't be for anyone else because he's told me he isn't buying gifts for anyone else this year because we bought a house earlier in the year. He told me exactly what he wanted, and that's exactly what I ordered online. So why didn't he do the same? I'm so disappointed. Edit. No, this is not a gift for his mother. We've already gotten her a gift, and she gets discounts and free perfume. No, she wouldn't have sent her gift to him. We would see her on Christmas, so it wouldn't make sense. This is not a gift for someone else. He's told me I'm literally the only person he's gifting this year. Even his family gifts are ones for me that I'm tacking his name on. No, he's not the type to have set up a fake gift. We only ever do one present per year. And no, I'm not going to return his gift and get him something he doesn't like. Update. Why not buy them myself? I totally can. But as an adult, there are things you want and things you need. I don't need these items, hence them going on a list. Why do you do lists? Well, because my fiancé is bad at gifts. Like he got me a phone charger one year. He felt horrible that was what he got me, and he continued to feel bad for months, even after I'd say things like, "No, it's great. I really needed it." So we started doing lists. I think that's also why I got a bit frustrated, because why ask me to make you a list if you're going to ignore it anyways? And here's the point I think some people missed. I wouldn't be disappointed if he got me something that wasn't on my list, but if it was still in my interests. I wouldn't be disappointed if it was out of the realm of my interests, as long as I could tell thought and effort went into it. Perfume is not in my interest. So I got lucky last night, and someone on Reddit actually posted their own blanket in a sub I'm in. So I shared this with my fiancé and went, "Oh wow, looks like it's on sale right now. I know I've been asking for this for a while, but maybe if you didn't get it for me yet, it's on sale now." And he responded, "No, I didn't get you that. I got you something romantic." Oh, so it must be something sentimental or that makes you think of me, right? No, it's romantic. And so I just dropped it at, "Okay, honey, if you think it's romantic, I trust your judgment that it's something I would like." And wouldn't you know it, this morning he's home from work and goes, "Where's the wrapping stuff? I want to wrap your gift." And 5 minutes later, the perfume is gone and there's a gift under the tree with my name. So on Christmas, I will open the perfume, be happy, and then be happy when I receive another bottle from his mother. I will talk to them and say, "I really appreciate the gift, but I think I'm set on perfume after this. Thanks to everyone who gave advice. Thanks to everyone who helped me see and understand what was truly making me upset. To anyone who wasn't helpful doesn't deserve a response." Tell him you found the bag because it was mixed in with your gifts and ask him if he knows how it got there or why it's there. Don't accuse or be upset, just talk to him. If you're right that it's his gift for you, you will have the chance to communicate your feelings and have a direct conversation about your wants and expectations. If you're wrong, then you get to stop feeling disappointed. Win-win. Assumptions are rarely, if ever, helpful, especially when it comes to relationships. This is a great opportunity to practice having uncomfortable conversations, which are absolutely a requirement of a healthy relationship. Am I the jerk for making it clear that if he keeps the grandkids away, then he will not be getting an inheritance? I'll try to keep this short. My son and his wife needed home repairs. Before living together, we had a great relationship. The problem came when his wife wouldn't follow the home rules. They're pretty simple, like clean up after yourself, don't be loud at night, and the big one was no drinking in the home, no alcohol in the home. We made this really clear, and my son knows his mother has issues related to it. We informed daughter-in-law in general terms also. The first few months seemed fine, but then it turned for the worse when the weather got cold. We couldn't prove it at the time, but we were sure they were drinking. It came to a head when, while cleaning, my wife found a wine bottle in the attic. She was upset and poured it out. Apparently, it was a $300 bottle, and it caused a huge fight between her and daughter-in-law. We let them stay until the renovations were done, and they have been out 2 weeks now. Relationship has been tense, and I figured we just needed time apart. My son met up with me and told us we can't see our grandkids anymore, that the incident made him rethink our relationship. I told him that was BS, that he knew the one big rule in the house, cause stress to his mother, my wife. He told me it was final, and I told him if he goes through with this, he will be out of our will. This started another argument, and he's upset with me. Edit. The wine was open. Edit 2. I called my sister and asked her to tell me the price of this wine. Well, you were right. It wasn't $300, but around $25. I need to talk to my son and find out why she lied about that. Long night. I had a conversation after I sent a text saying that the bottle was only $25. During the argument, when the price came out, daughter-in-law thought my wife poured out all of the wine. There was a case up there worth $300. My son removed it when he realized she just found the one left out and went with the price instead of informing us that there was more wine. Not the jerk. Don't know why everyone thinks it's acceptable to be so dependent on alcohol that being asked to not drink it for a little while is a crime. You were kind enough to offer them to stay in your home and gave them some rules to follow. When they didn't follow them, you didn't even kick them out. Your son and his wife are being massively entitled here. This is one of those posts where it feels very murky and one-sided, and I feel like hearing the son or daughter-in-law's side would shed a whole new light on this. Taking away access to the grandkids over a bottle of wine? I bet there are other reasons OP isn't telling us. I think OP is only telling selective bits of the situation. I reserve judgment on the basis of not having enough information. Am I the jerk for saying I don't need to be thrifty? I'm engaged to Matt. Matt was raised by a single mom, Tina. It was the first time Tina came to stay with us over Thanksgiving. I get that there is some class difference. Tina worked mainly in restaurant and retail jobs to make ends meet. My mom is an engineer and my dad is a lawyer. Tina stayed on our couch and immediately tried to make me into this thrifty housewife for her son, although I'm currently making more than him as he's finishing his post-grad internship. It became hostile about things like our hand soap in the bathroom, kitchen towels, and trash bags. We got into a major fight over them. I normally just use trash bags that originally came with our trash can. I never really paid attention to the price, but after we got back from grocery shopping and I didn't get stovetop stuffing or mashed potatoes, she was mad at me. She didn't like the grocery store I chose to get our mini Thanksgiving dinner. We went to our loft and she started yelling at me about how I didn't need to shop the way I do and that I needed to wise up money-wise and not waste her son's money. Again, I make 6 figures while her son is wrapping up his internship. But after that, he should match or exceed my pay in 2 years, so the price of milk and trash bags is not something I think of. I told her that. I don't know what happened, but she starts crying, saying about how horrible I am. I got angry at her and left her in the loft and texted Matt about her. I went to stay with my sister and her girlfriend who live on the other side of the city overnight. They were planning to come out to our mini Thanksgiving. This is Wednesday night. Matt asked if we could now skip hosting because his mom is not in a good place and I upset her. They ended up eating the turkey I was going to prepare and then made Matt rush to get stovetop stuffing and instant potatoes. He dropped overnight bag off at my sister's. Normally, Matt and my sister have a good relationship, but she yelled at him. His mom left, but Matt thinks we should discuss finances. My whole family heard about what happened over trash bags and Matt canceling Thanksgiving. My family is angry at him and his mom. My mom thinks I should cancel the engagement, but Matt and his mom think I'm awful for just leaving his mom crying in the apartment and I acted like a snobby diva to her. Not the jerk. Matt needs to have a talk with his mom and explain that you are currently the breadwinner and that you and he make financial decisions about how the two of you shop for your household. And if she has issues, she should speak to him about them. If he won't, you have a fiancé problem, not a mother-in-law problem. She went off on you in your own home because she didn't like the grocery store you shopped at for Thanksgiving. You and Matt are hosting, at which she was a guest. And then she got upset that you didn't console her after she picked a fight and went off on you. Your fiancé took her side, canceled Thanksgiving for your family, and ate the food you bought and were going to prepare with his mom. Because you upset her. Never mind that she started it and she upset you in your house. Rude Karen assumed I was flirting with her and tried to reject me. Huge mistake. This was back in 08 or 09. I was in Ecuador at the time. I was staying at a hostel and was there for just over 3 weeks. Less than a block away, there was an Irish pub. This pub had really good bar food that wasn't on the menu of a lot of other restaurants in the area. So because of that, it was a mixed crowd. Popular with locals and backpackers because of the proximity to the hostel. I'm at the bar with some other guests from the hostel and we're expecting a few more to join us. Next to me is a bar stool, and on the other side of the bar stool are 2 women talking. They're obviously friends. In Spanish, I ask the woman closest to me if she's using this empty chair and if it's okay if I grab it. Spanish is not my first language, but I can still speak it clearly and confidently, and I grew up speaking it since I was a kid. She says to me in Spanish, with a smirk on her face, that she does not understand me and she does not speak English. I ask for the chair again in Spanish while motioning to it, and she says again that she doesn't speak English. I ended up getting the chair from a high-top table that was behind us that no one was using. At that point, she turns to her friend, and I hear them mumble, "I don't know why he's talking to me." And I hear them chuckling to themselves, assuming that I was trying to flirt with her, and I guess she rejected me. Cue petty revenge. Throughout the evening, I know that she heard me conversing in Spanish with the bartender, so by this time, she knew I definitely spoke Spanish. The napkin dispenser is directly in front of me, and she asks me in Spanish if I can hand it to her. I look at her confused, and I point to the napkin dispenser, then look back at her and lean in a little as if I didn't hear what she had said. She again says that she needs napkins and if I can hand her the napkin dispenser, all in Spanish. I look at the dispenser and then back at her, and I very clearly say, "Lo siento, no habla inglés." I'm sorry, I don't speak English. She gives me shocked Pikachu face, she turns bright red, and then I give her the cold shoulder. Don't flatter yourself, lady. I wasn't trying to flirt with you. I was just wanting the bar stool. No, the bar was not loud. There was music, but easy to carry on a conversation. So yes, I'm sure I said it correctly. I am bilingual. Spanish was not my first language, and I typically don't write in it, but speaking it is fine for me, and I've been doing so since I was a kid. Yes, this story really happened.
Seems to me like she might have been the one doing the flirting.
Am I the jerk for making my husband pay for a mistake out of his allowance? My husband and I have an allowance system that prevents a lot of arguments about incidental spending. Both of our salaries go into a joint account for all bills, investments, and agreed upon purchases. The allowance is a smaller amount, $50 to $100 a week, but always equal for each of us, that gets moved to separate accounts for each of us, with the understanding that we can spend this money on whatever, no permission needed. Usually it's spent on individual hobbies and splurges. This works well for us. Today, I was looking through my husband's credit card bill that I had used recently, with his permission, to make some travel arrangements. We don't keep any secret bills. This credit card is auto-paid from our joint account. I saw a $73 charge to YouTube and asked him about it. He said he didn't remember buying anything, so I dug deeper. Turns out he had subscribed to YouTube TV last December to watch a football game on a road trip, and he had forgotten about it. I had no idea because this was his YouTube account. His email notifications, his credit card. The total charge added up to $675. I admit I was annoyed and I made some short comments. You should always set a reminder to cancel these things. If you were responsible about checking your email, this might not have happened. There's a history of him being irresponsible with bills and missing important emails. I manage almost all of the finances. We're in good shape, but I hate the idea of waste. We weren't even utilizing that expensive subscription. He paid that money to watch one thing 10 months ago. I told him that to be fair, he'd have to pay the $675 out of his fun money. He had more than enough in there because he was saving for a bigger hobby purchase. I canceled the YouTube subscription on his phone, then used the banking app on my phone to move the money from his allowance account back to the joint account. I probably should have asked him to move the money himself, but I was upset. I felt more calm after doing the money transfer because to me, the matter was then settled. He got irritated and said he shouldn't have to pay out of his allowance for a simple mistake. I said, everyone has to pay for their mistakes. That's how life works. Maybe I was harsh, but the wasted money was all on him. I don't see any better way to resolve it. He pointed out that we are doing fine financially. We're fortunate that $675 out of the joint account won't affect our budgeting for the month, but it will make a big difference to his savings for his hobbies, as it is close to 2 months of his allowance. His allowance. It was the principle of the matter to me. I'm very careful with money. No matter how well we do financially, I'll always look for good deals and avoid frivolous spending. So, am I the jerk for moving my husband's fun and allowance money to pay for a mistake that he made? Edit. I appreciate the responses, as reading the objective viewpoints helped me realize I behaved badly, more punitive than fair. Marriage is a partnership, not a balance sheet, and honest mistakes happen. I reacted out of irritation about the money without thinking about the bigger picture. I called my husband and apologized. He said he didn't blame me for being irritated, as he was irritated about the money too, but he appreciated the apology. He said we could talk later about moving the money back or not. He should be grateful that he has such a great mom. This is how I feel. Like the money is being micromanaged and OP is treating her husband like a kid. I could never. The entire system of allowances, etc. Best option is to have a joint account and then also have separate accounts. A set amount of money goes into the joint accounts each month to cover bills and savings, but the majority of each individual's expendable income can stay within their personal account, and they can do with it whatever they want to as long as it doesn't jeopardize the overall finances of their marriage and partner. I would never share my finances with someone who wanted to have allowances. They can treat their own income that way if it works best for them, but I don't want someone else controlling how I spend my money so long as I'm not misspending or hurting our overall marriage. If he only used it once ages ago, he might be able to get a refund by reaching out to customer support. I assume you'll be the one doing that for him, not the jerk, because it seems like he's habitually irresponsible with money and this is the proverbial straw. Unfortunately, you're the jerk. I'm like you in that I'm very careful about charges and reviewing my credit card bill, so he or you should definitely be doing that. He shouldn't have been so careless, but it was a mistake. Everyone paying for their mistakes may be how life works, but you're a team and it doesn't affect your finances. Let's use the golden rule here. Would you want him to punish you for a mistake like this? OP, you're right. My reaction was out of irritation, but it was purely a mistake on his part. Despite the carelessness, he didn't do it on purpose. After having some time to calm down and read these objective responses, I realize I'm in the wrong and I will apologize to him. To be honest though, I would pay it back from my own account if it were me. I would feel too guilty about the money and the mistake otherwise. While it was a mistake, and he should have been more rigorous, he's not your 12-year-old kid. Allowances, taking away allowances. You both are adults here. A mistake was made, it's been corrected, and see if there's a pattern. This isn't a mistake where you've gone broke or can't pay your bills, etc. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know.
Bruh, if I make some sort of mistake and waste $650, I'm not gonna expect anybody else to pay it. That's up to me. I did it. I should take accountability for my actions.
Accountability though, Karen, that's the word. Reddit, they're just not big fans of that whole concept.
No wonder they're all so crazy.
My boyfriend's female friends have disinvited me from multiple holidays. Should I accept this? I'm in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, and today we've had a really difficult day communicating due to me feeling quite depressed. He's been out drinking all day with 2 female friends, and I've asked him if we can chat about a few important things when he gets home. He gets home at about 10 p.m. and is pretty wasted, so we don't really get anywhere with our discussion. He then tells me around 11 p.m. the 2 girls are heading over because one has just had a huge fight with her boyfriend. I ask him to ask them to go somewhere else as I really want to sort out our issues, and he lies and says, they probably won't turn up. 10 minutes later, he says they're out the door, but when I dig a little, it's actually only one of them. They are friends, but they do have a history. He's aware that I'm not comfortable with them on a one-on-one when booze is involved. Not through lack of trust, but more so I feel it's disrespectful to me. He begins to hang up on me, telling me I'm being irrational when I keep asking him to please respect my boundary. So I tell him if he won't listen to my boundary, I'll ask her, because we went to school together and we are reasonably friendly. He continues to go off on me, telling me I'm irrational, while she tells me how platonic they are. But neither acknowledge the fact that as a long-distance couple, one thing I don't feel comfortable with is drunken sleepovers with old flings, as I don't feel like we need the added stress, and I know he would flip if I did. Why do people stay in relationships with people who do this kind of stuff? I just don't get it. I've clearly laid out all these boundaries to him multiple times through prior conversations. Am I the jerk for messaging her when he ignored me? I would love to hear what people feel a fair compromise would be, and also if I need to consider if my expectations are too high. For context, the clique is my boyfriend, 2 girls and 1 guy. I attended school with the girls and briefly dated my boyfriend's male friend 6 years ago. They also have all done things together in the past, kissing only. My boyfriend and I began dating in December of 2022, and I've known him since childhood, but we lost touch for over 15 years. At the beginning of our relationship, I sensed negativity from this group of friends, but was reassured by all of them that there was no issue. My boyfriend and myself also cleared things with his friend who I had dated, who assured us there were no unresolved issues and that he was happy for us. Fast forward 3 months, and they were drinking and book a holiday. My boyfriend initially invited me, but the group stated they didn't want it to be a couple's holiday, and therefore they didn't want me to go.
His male friend at this point cited our history as a reason why he felt uncomfortable. I reluctantly accepted this, but assured my boyfriend I didn't think it was appropriate for the past to be used like this in the future, as I felt we should all move forward and accept the present. The issue did cause a rift between myself and my boyfriend, affecting how secure I felt in the following months, as I wasn't sure how he would respond in future instances. Another trip was discussed, and my boyfriend said he would ask his friend not to exclude me, but a while after this conversation occurred, his friend again messaged their group chat to request if it could be just friends. By this point, my boyfriend has not stood up for me regarding this issue for many months, and last week I became fed up of the atmosphere and messaged two of the friends asking why they kept covertly uninviting me. They both responded very defensively, and the male again reiterated our history as a relevant reason. He also stated the four of them have a special friendship, and time together as a four is valuable. My boyfriend has seconded this. He said initially he would have liked us to get along, which we do, but that's obviously not what they want, and despite my efforts, they prefer it just being the four of them on holidays and trips. He also said he wouldn't be against supporting the exclusion of me on certain trips, as you can't force them to want to spend time with you. All I want is for us to just be mature, squash it and move on, but it does feel like no one wants to do the same. It also feels like my past dating history is being unfairly used to justify this. I have no issues with him remaining friends with them. I only take issue with the cliquey nature, and I feel that this can't really coexist healthily with our relationship. I'm very comfortable with conflict resolution and would happily move past this, but I sense these people aren't and won't want to. We're currently on a break while we both evaluate our boundaries. I know I shouldn't pass the blame on to his friends, but it does aggravate me that their preferences are having such an impact on our relationship, and rather than ask them to reevaluate their position, he finds it easier to blame me, telling me, "You're letting it ruin us." They really are a childish group, and your boyfriend is really no help. Don't force yourself into that group dynamic. It doesn't sound like it would be fun or healthy for you. If I were in your position, I would develop friends and hobbies outside of him and his friend group. Take some trips without him. Don't make him the center of your life, and don't give the stupid friend group the pleasure of knowing that you are bothered. You should also consider if he balances the time that he's spending with you versus taking trips with them. If not, then you have a discussion with him and decide if the relationship is worth the drama. OP. That's the thing. I generally don't have complaints about how he splits his time. We're long distance, and I live in England for the most part, and them in Ireland, but myself and him visit back and forth. I just don't like the precedent that it's okay for me to be excluded from future trips from the get-go. But at the same time, if he himself is saying, "I want it to only be the four of us," I don't know how to feel about that considering the way that it's all happened. I'm torn between respecting his wishes and ignoring them, or insisting on more respect. Final update. I've explained my feelings over and over, and I've now walked away. I cannot maintain self-respect while accepting a partner who harbors and encourages this type of exclusion, and quite frankly is bullying me. It's an extremely hard choice, but needed for my own sense of self and peace of mind. Am I the jerk for reaching out to the bride's makeup artist behind the bride's back and almost getting the entire bridal party fired as clients? The bride, Rika, is super nice and understanding. Her main request to the bridesmaids was having hair and makeup done by the same hair and makeup artist, with Rika paying the morning of the wedding for the getting ready hangout. Rika had her mind set on a specific artist that offered a fancy bridal experience with lots of extras, and she was very excited about it. I wear bold, dramatic makeup daily. I had no issue sticking to Rika's very different preferred style for her wedding. However, over the last few years, I had a number of painful reactions to makeup products, and I was never able to figure out the trigger. If I immediately take makeup off, pain goes away in hours and discomfort fades in a few days. While reactions are rare, I now stick to specific makeup lines that I know work for me. I asked Rika if she could ask the hair and makeup artist what products they use, or I could do my own makeup while everyone else was getting theirs done, trying for the same look. But Rika just kept saying that she had a reputable makeup artist that followed professional standards of hygiene and that the makeup would be quite light. It seemed in her head reactions could only happen with a shady makeup artist or heavy makeup. Rika said she could pay for me to have a trial done on the same day she'd have hers, so I don't have to worry. I agreed like an idiot. Then I realized that didn't work, because if the makeup artist used a triggering product, I would still have a painful reaction just on a different day. I messaged Rika again, and I had the same pointless conversations. The trial day was coming. I didn't want to just cancel. It made sense in my head to message the makeup artist with my question directly. Unexpectedly, the makeup artist straight up said she can't work on me for liability reasons, as I can't identify problem ingredients. Not even using products I name is safe. She also asked if the bride was aware. Turns out Rika had filled out a form that confirmed no one had known makeup sensitivities. I don't blame Rika. She signed medical and customs forms without reading them. But the makeup artist was enraged. She almost fired Rika as a client 5 weeks ahead of the wedding. They worked it out. I haven't even heard of a makeup artist with such forms or such a hardcore stance in general. Rika and her maid of honor since implied I was intentionally sabotaging so I could do my usual attention-grabbing makeup. I'm hoping that's maid of honor and bride stress talking, and not what Rika really thinks of me. Several people told me I should have just risked it, considering my reactions, and the chance of them occurring in the first place, are relatively minor. The more people say this, the more I'm thinking that maybe that is what was expected of me as a friend. Obviously, my worst move was messaging the makeup artist directly, but I wasn't getting anywhere with Rika, and I was afraid that she'd be mad if I just said I wasn't doing the hair and makeup thing. But the more I think of it, going behind her back on something so important to her may make me a jerk. Edit. People keep asking about patch testing. My reactions only trigger on my lips and eyelids. Arm swatching or whatever doesn't help. Edit 2. I've been to doctors and had allergy tests done. Nothing. They think it's not a true allergy, but a reaction to something my body finds particularly irritating for some reason. There's no obvious common ingredient. I have every outward symptom for referred pollen energy, but not an actual pollen allergy. Not the jerk. Addressing your medical needs directly is totally reasonable. To be honest, I would be willing to quit the bridal party over it. You never know when a skin reaction could turn to something more serious. Not the jerk. A reputable makeup artist would be okay with you bringing your own products for her to use if you're allergic. My own mother stole my wedding dress and ruined it. When I was 16, my parents kicked me out. I had grabbed a few bags and left to live with my best friend, who was 16, male, and his parents at the time. Before I was kicked out, I was given my grandmother's wedding dress, which I wanted to wear as my own one day. Once I was kicked out, my mother and sister raided my room for whatever they wanted before I came back to collect the rest of my stuff. I did notice this at the time, but I didn't have the mental energy to fight about it. The wedding dress was one of those items taken from me in 2021. She used the excuse that the people I was staying with left their house unlocked and she didn't want it stolen or damaged, so she was going to get it cleaned and boxed, and she stated, "You shouldn't have it, it's a family heirloom." Today I got it back, after 2 years of fighting her for it. The threat of police and courts caused her to finally fold. She doesn't want legal trouble, as it would make her perfect image crumble in front of her friends. I had to go to my grandmother to get a recording of her stating that it was mine. Keep in mind, my grandmother is 92 and has bad memory, yet she remembered that 2 years ago she gave it to me and remembers the entire day in detail. So anyways, after all of that, which I've left so much out, I opened the box and it's ruined. There's thousands of dollars worth of damage. She handed me the box with the dress after going on a rant about how she spoke to Grandma and anyone in the family who wants to use it should be allowed to, as that's what Grandma gave it to me for, was to be the keeper and lend it out when it was wanted. False. In the recording I ask, "What did you do with your wedding dress? It's okay if you don't remember." She said, "What do you mean? I gave it to you." I told my grandmother, "I will be wearing this as my wedding dress," and she states, "I wish to see you in it again one day," as she most likely won't live to see the day that I'm married. Nowhere in the conversation does she mention the fact that I have to lend it out to others. In fact, she affirms that it's mine and mine alone. I told my sister after I've worn the dress at my wedding, I might lend it to her. This dress drama started because she wanted to clean and keep the dress from being damaged or stolen, only to steal the dress from me, clean it, and damage it beyond belief. My whole family, including my partner, believes that I'm being overly dramatic and how angry and betrayed I feel. However, I feel I have the right to be angry, as she stole and damaged my dress, then tried to turn it into some kind of communal wedding dress after it was specifically given to me. I called her, and she sounded like she was trying not to laugh, saying, "Well, that's the risk you take when getting an old wedding dress dry cleaned." I believe it's 100% her responsibility to fix it, so I will be demanding she gets it repaired at her cost. I'm so tired of being invalidated, but I need to know, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. If it has thousands of dollars worth of damage, I'd take her to court. Not the jerk, but you actually wrote your own solution in your post. You said your mom doesn't want any legal trouble. She destroyed your dress, your property. That's a crime. Call the cops on her, and when she calls enraged, tell her that's the risk you take when you damage other people's belongings. Also, since she cares so much about appearance, I would take a pic of the dress and blast her on social media. She sounds like a bully. Only one way to deal with a bully. Show them you will not be bullied and they will face consequences when they do. My husband recorded a video of me falling down to post it online. Okay, as the title says, this happened 3 weeks ago, on Monday. As usual, woke up at 6 a.m. to go to work. I was taking a shower and everything was okay, but as I stepped out of the shower, I fell down. I touched the floor and it was greasy, so my husband, who's 32, came out of our room with a camera, recording everything and laughing out loud. I wanted an explanation, and he said it was just a prank. He had spread butter on the floor for me to fall down because his brilliant friend thought it was a great idea to play pranks on their spouses to post them online and go viral. One of the idiots even pushed his pregnant wife into a pool. Thus, I was speechless. I was kind of in shock. I felt insecure and vulnerable. I was thinking, come on, you're supposed to have my back, not make fun of me. So I didn't argue. I didn't say anything. I just left for work. He even told me, before leaving, "You might be angry now, but I promise I'll compensate you tonight." Throughout the day, I started analyzing the event, and I found it childish, disrespectful, and just stupid. I mean, thank heavens nothing terrible happened, but what if I hadn't grabbed the curtain and I had hit my head when I fell? A severe head injury can be life-threatening. I would never risk his integrity like that because he's my husband. I respect him and I love him. He's usually very wise and smart, but this time he acted like a teenager. So that day, I didn't feel like seeing my husband when I went to my dad's to cool down, but I haven't been home in 3 weeks because I'm still angry at him. I asked my dad to go and pack my things. At first, my husband didn't want to let him in, but he ended up allowing it. I haven't even answered his calls, and I'm seriously reconsidering our relationship. We've been married for 3 years. He's caring and loving and had never done anything as irresponsible and stupid like this before. He's been bombarding my phone with apology messages and begging me to come back, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't look at him the same way I did before. So now, everyone, but my dad, is telling me that it's time to forgive because he didn't do it with intention of hurting me, and perhaps he didn't consider the consequences and didn't think it could be life-threatening, that I'm overreacting because it's just a prank. But this isn't some 6-year-old kid who doesn't see beyond the prank. This guy's a doctor. He knows what a head injury could mean. So, I don't know. Am I really overreacting? Because everyone seems to agree that I am, even my mom. Yeah, I know he might not have done it hoping I would get hurt, but it's so disrespectful, and there was a chance it could be life-threatening. A friend of mine recommended this space to get some unbiased opinions. Not the jerk. These dangerous prank videos are extreme and never funny. Someone could get hurt. Most of them are incredibly irresponsible and cruel. OP, keep yourself safe. If you don't feel comfortable and happy in your relationship and you can't trust your partner to not do juvenile things like this, I feel like that's all you need to know. Guest stole our Thanksgiving turkey. I'm confused and frustrated and need to vent. We hosted Thanksgiving this year. Husband and I, our 2 kids, husband's siblings and nieces and nephews, and most importantly, husband's gravely ill mother. We're all at peace that this Thanksgiving and Christmas will probably be our last holiday together. It's been emotional and exhausting, but we really wanted to make a memorable day that everyone would enjoy. Our daughter, Mary, is visiting from college, and one day before she flew in, she says her boyfriend, Chris, is actually flying to our city to visit friends over the break. Mary asked if he could come over for Thanksgiving. We've never met Chris before, but to be honest, we're not wild about him. As soon as Mary started dating him, we started seeing some worrying changes in her. Our son, who's just a couple of years older, confided in us that Mary is getting into the party scene largely because of Chris. We tried gently bringing up our concerns with Mary, but she shuts it down and has started to pull away from us. So because we didn't want to alienate her, we said Chris could visit, but they'd need to stay in separate rooms. She said that won't matter because he's booked a hotel room and she'll be staying there with him the whole weekend. Ah, okay. Cut to Thanksgiving and Mary and Chris arrive. He's not the greatest. He makes a couple of rude and snide remarks throughout the visit and hits the alcohol way harder than is appropriate. My family was in a very earnest mood, if that makes sense. Lots of emotions, and he was just dismissive and flippant and cast a shadow on everything. At one point, everyone started telling stories about their favorite holidays at mother-in-law's house when she would go all out for family parties. My husband and I stopped working in the kitchen to join the conversation. When we go back to the kitchen, after maybe half an hour, I went to check the turkey in the oven and it was gone, completely missing. I asked my husband if he did something with the turkey and he was just as confused as I was. We looked all over the kitchen and the house, but we couldn't find it. We go out to the living room and ask everyone if they know what happened to the turkey, and no one knows what we're talking about. At this point, I realize Chris isn't around. I pull Mary to the side and ask where he is because I don't want to jump to conclusions and make accusations. She said that he had to leave to go meet up with friends. I asked her to text him and ask if he knows what happened to the turkey, and Mary kind of rolled her eyes. At this point, it's dawning on me that Chris probably stole the turkey and left out the back door while we were sharing stories about mother-in-law, but I'm just so confused why anyone would do something like that. I can't bring myself to actually make the accusation out loud. So we were left in the terrible position of having everything else ready, but no turkey. We had to break it to the family that we had no turkey, and everyone is confused and sad. Mary said she had to get going to an event with Chris, which deeply disappointed me. I told her this, and she just said that she'll see us again later this weekend. My in-laws went driving around to restaurants and grocery stores and pieced together enough stuff that we were able to have a meal much later than expected, but it felt like the whole day was ruined. Everyone was kind of murmuring about Chris leaving around the time the turkey disappeared, but no one wanted to actually accuse him out loud because it's such a huge allegation and there's not actually any proof. I'm just confused why anyone would do such a thing and heartbroken because my mother-in-law didn't deserve this at all. At one point, she teared up but pulled it together. I'm also increasingly angry with my daughter, but I feel like I can't say anything because she'll just pull away more. Wait, the turkey was almost ready? Wouldn't it have been super hot and difficult to carry? OP, that's why I haven't formally said anything, because it doesn't make sense how he could steal a hot turkey. I strongly suspect Chris stole it, but it's such a cruel and strange thing to do, and the logistics of it just don't make sense. Could it be a neighbor? OP, I don't have any reason to think a neighbor did this. Also, Chris disappeared right when the turkey did. Update, 8 hours later. I was talking with my son today, and he told me that last night Chris started taunting him over text about the missing turkey. So that settles it. Chris stole the turkey basically as a big forget you to all of us. My son didn't say anything at the time because he didn't want to make people more upset than they already were. One of my husband's siblings is very mad at us for how things turned out and how mother-in-law was disrespected. Sibling is not talking with us right now. I've tried calling and texting Mary, but she's just ignoring me. That's all I have to say about this. Update, 1 year later. Last year, I hoped to talk with Mary in person about what Chris did, but she blew me off and didn't visit home for the rest of Thanksgiving weekend. We spoke briefly on the phone a few days later, but she denied that Chris stole our turkey, even though Chris taunted my son about it, basically admitting what he did. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. The ripple effects were profound. Our family expected her to live through Christmas, so it was very difficult to lose what we thought would be her last holiday. And it was even more bitter that the Thanksgiving that was her actual last holiday was ruined by Chris and his incomprehensible theft. From there, it got even worse. Mary flew in for my mother-in-law's funeral and mentioned that Chris might travel with her to see a concert in our city. We made it clear that he was not welcome in our home or at the funeral. He ultimately stayed at their college. But on the day of the visitation, an anonymous threat was made against the funeral home, and we all had to evacuate while the police did a search. The police were never able to prove it, but I strongly suspect Chris made the threats. My mother-in-law's visitation was cut significantly short, and she was denied a dignified end. Some people who wanted to pay their respects ultimately could not because of the evacuation and inspection. One of my husband's siblings has gone no contact with us because they blame my husband and I for ruining the end of mother-in-law's life by inviting Chris to Thanksgiving last year. Mary refused to take any responsibility for how her relationship with Chris has damaged our family. We, husband, I, and Mary, have mutually decided to go no contact. My son has minimal contact with Mary and follows her on social media. Apparently, Mary and Chris are still together. I'm sorry I have such a sad update, but my family and I are very grateful for all the support we received last year. Thank you. No contact means cutting her off financially, correct? OP. Part of it is there's money in a trust fund for mother-in-law that Mary is legally entitled to, and my husband is the administrator. We also don't want her out on the streets or to abandon her education. That would drag her down even further as a person. What did I just read? What type of person would steal a Thanksgiving turkey straight out of an oven or call a threat in on a funeral home? I hate that OP's in-laws cut them off for inviting Chris to Thanksgiving. How could anyone expect that their daughter's previously mildly red flag boyfriend would steal a turkey from his girlfriend's family Thanksgiving dinner like a B-rate cartoon villain? Today I messed up by destroying my chance with my biggest celebrity crush. So I'm not going to say her name because I don't want this to make any headlines. She's a singer, not super famous, but she still has a pretty big fan base. Like whenever someone asks who my favorite artist is, I say her name and I have to explain who she is every single time. Yet she does have more than 1 million subscribers on Instagram. I'm 27 and I've been a huge fan of hers for the past 4 to 5 years. Maybe I'm her biggest fan. Before that, I didn't have any celebrity crushes. I remember that everyone had one in my teenage years. However, I never really understood how you would get so obsessed over someone you've never met. I understood it with her. I know her every single song. I must have watched every show she's been on, every interview she's given. I love her music and I love her personality. At least how she presents herself in those interviews. She's beautiful and has the kindest heart. So a few weeks ago, I was abroad for business-related reasons. After a long day of work in a small office, I wanted to walk to my hotel to get some fresh air. On my way there, I saw a bar. It seemed like a quiet place, so even though I was very tired, I went in to see what kind of beer they had. I like trying different kinds of beers whenever I travel. I sat down and ordered one and started mindlessly scrolling on my phone so I wasn't alone with my thoughts, as you do when you're sitting at a bar alone. After ordering my second beer, someone said hi. I turned around and saw her. Like, don't get me wrong, I've met women at bars before, but never had a woman come up to me first, so that was new. And it was her of all people. Her! So of course I thought I must have fallen asleep on my desk at work and I was dreaming. I was freaking out internally. Externally, I managed to keep my cool. I said hi back. Since I couldn't believe who was standing in front of me, it was more like a hi, I guess. She said she saw me sitting alone and she was alone as well, so she thought it might be nice to chat while enjoying our drinks. I said, of course. I mean, why not? Sit. And rather aggressively pulled up a chair. I was very excited and nervous, but it seemed like she still hadn't realized I was a fan. I told her my name and she said hers, but I didn't say I already knew her because I wasn't sure about revealing that. At first I was a little awkward and talked about the weather, how nice the bar is and stuff. Then we talked for another hour or so. The conversation was going pretty well, and thankfully I was much calmer at that point. Then I told her I was in the city for work and talked about what I do very briefly. Very boring job. She then said that she was there for work as well and said she makes music. At that point, I thought I should be honest. I said, I know, I'm a huge fan actually. I love every song. I have all your merch. Her expression quickly changed from happy to disappointed, and she said, oh. That was the moment I realized I messed up. Thinking about it now, maybe not telling that to her a little earlier was a bigger mistake. She said she doesn't think getting close with fans is appropriate. For a second, I was going to say, so we were gonna get close? But thank goodness I didn't. She briefly explained why she thought it's wrong, and all I could say was, I respect that, and I really do. Even though it hurt, and I don't agree with it 100%, having a certain kind of power over people and choosing not to use that power for ethical reasons is quite respectable in my opinion. It got a little awkward again, and we only talked for a few more minutes. She said we could take a selfie if I want to, so we did. I offered her my number, and she said maybe we could grab coffee if she ever comes to my country. She accepted it, but probably out of politeness. Then I walked her to her car, and I'll probably never see her again in person outside of a concert. I can't stop thinking about how else that night could have gone, and I'll probably think that for months, if not years. But what can you do? It is what it is. It's also weird that I went to a country I've never been to before, decided to walk, even though I usually don't, walked into a random bar and met my biggest celebrity crush there. It's like a universe aligned everything for me, and I managed to mess it all up. You didn't act weird. That's probably the most normal obsessed fan interaction I think ever documented. I'm proud of you. At least you can say you gave your number to your celebrity crush and she took it. This was probably a no-win scenario, depending on what you were looking for in an IRL relationship with her. If you had said you were a fan right away, it probably would have been a much shorter conversation, and if you pretended you didn't know her, maybe you might have had a nice night together. But then you would have been past the point of no return, so if the friendship continued, you'd have to keep faking it. She's probably at the point where she has to worry about whether people are authentic or just trying to get close to her because she's a celebrity, and meeting people who don't know her allows her to ignore that for a while. This simply is not true. Either that, or OP follows the band to every event and attempted to stay at the same hotels until things lined up. Am I the jerk for canceling Thanksgiving dinner? I, 33, female, have been sick on and off this year, and I'm not in great shape for traveling. Nothing serious, I'm just exhausted, and my husband and I decided not to spend Thanksgiving with our families this year. Also, his parents are on a cruise, and mine are spending Thanksgiving with my brother and his wife at her parents' house. So everyone's happy and no one is being left alone on Thanksgiving. Since we had a group of friends in town that aren't traveling for Thanksgiving, we decided to hold a Thanksgiving dinner and invite a total of 10 friends over. I have everything prepared and actually ordered a Thanksgiving meal for 15 people. I like extra food, so it really feels like Thanksgiving, and then everyone can take some when they leave. We ordered because I feel physically too weak to pull off a Thanksgiving meal for this many people, and my husband can't do it alone either. We were both looking so much forward to Thanksgiving dinner. One of my friends of 5 years has been going through a tough period recently, and I wanted her to come, especially since it would be really weird that she is in town and not invited. However, my friend, let's call her Tina, has been engaged to her fiancé, Max, for over 5 years, since before I met her. So me and my husband have always hung out with Tina and Max as a couple. This past year, Tina told me that she has a crush on Max's friend, Tom, whom we know well but aren't friends with. I tried to support her and to be a good friend, but since she was trying to tell me details about how she was flirting with Tom when he would go over and how they had touched each other, etc., I told her that I wasn't comfortable to hear the details and that it wasn't fair she would put me in this position since she wasn't breaking up with Max and I had to see him again, which made me feel like a liar even though I had done nothing wrong. She was upset with me but understood and apologized. With time, I perceived that things advanced between her and Tom while she was still being engaged to Max. When she would complain about how her personal life was a mess, I tried many times to tell her that this is super wrong and she should come clean to Max and either try to work things out or break up. I think she understood that she did not have my support in this, so she stopped talking about it altogether. We kept hanging out with her and Max, and I thought and hoped that she solved things and cut it out with Tom. We invited Tina and Max for Thanksgiving, of course. Now here's where the problem starts. This Friday evening, we were out with a group of friends, including Tina and Max, and I was surprised to see that they had invited Tom too. Max said something about Tom being closer to them and going off into their house. I didn't like hearing that, but none of my business. However, towards the end of the evening, our other friends were talking about how they cannot wait for Thanksgiving at my house, and Tina told to Tom, "You should come too." She invited him to my house, my party, knowing full well that I don't support whatever cheating she's doing with him. Tom said he would love to, and in that moment, I just couldn't speak. My husband said it was a great idea, and that sealed the deal. Info: my husband knows nothing about what's going on with Tina and Tom because I wanted to respect her privacy and didn't want to be telling her secrets to anyone, including my husband. After Friday night, I've been feeling sick to my stomach and so mad, so I decided to cancel the Thanksgiving party from being at our house, and I asked one of my friends if she could hold it instead, if I sent all the food there. I purposefully chose this one friend that doesn't know Tom at all and wasn't with us on Friday evening, so since he is not in the original text group where we sent the invitation, he's not invited. Tina was furious with me and sent me a long message saying I had no right to do that, just to uninvite Tom because I have no idea what's happened between them since I refused to hear the details. The audacity and the disrespect. I'm thinking of cutting her off my life, but I first need to calm down and thought to ask everyone here if by any chance I'm the jerk and overreacting. Update. This got Tina livid. She proceeded to practically bully me with texts over 3 days, telling me stuff ranging from, "You're not a good friend because you don't want me to be happy," and by happy she means having both her fiancé and her potential lover together in my house, to, "You are a professional failure because you didn't get the job you wanted," to, "I'm glad you got sick and out of shape so I don't have to hear anyone anymore talk about how good you look." Given all the drama, it didn't make sense to keep it a secret from my husband, so I told him. He decided that it's better that we tell Max, not only because he deserves to know, but also because we will cut her, or them if they stay together, out of our lives. We decided to do it after Thanksgiving, and we're trying to decide if we should tell Tina beforehand so she could tell him first if she wanted to, or if we have them together and talk about it with the 4 of us. This was so that Tina wouldn't feel it was a backstabbing situation. Not that she deserves any grace at this point, but for basic human decency. We decided we would go to the Thanksgiving dinner and not provoke any drama, so that the night wasn't ruined for the rest of our friends. There was no reason to believe that Tina would cause any scenes because she was chatting very normally on the group chat and even joking about something I said, even though separately she was sending me rage-filled messages. However, this late afternoon, I learned that she had created an additional group chat and told our friends that I've been spreading lies about her to them, and anything I had told them was a lie to make her look bad. I hadn't told them a word. My plan was to simply communicate to them that I had cut Tina out of my life after I did it, without providing any details other than saying that she tried to involve me in situations that made me uncomfortable. I also had planned to tell them that they didn't need to choose between me or her, and that we could still hang out and I wouldn't mind to skip the events where they wanted to invite Tina. Not optimal, but best I could have done. In addition, she asked them to choose between her and Max and me and my husband because she couldn't stand to be in the same friend group as me anymore after I ruined her life. Needless to say, my friends were super confused. They reached out to me. Most of them have known me for over 20 years, so they know I don't spread lies. I showed them all the messages and told them everything. The friend who was hosting tomorrow said that apparently Tina had asked if her and Max could bring a friend, most probably Tom. After an hour-long conversation with my friends, we decided to tell Max collectively today and not have them join the dinner tomorrow. Only Max if he wanted to. One of the friends called Max and told him we all needed to speak with him and to come alone. He showed up less than 20 minutes later, he only lives 15 minutes away, with Tina. She was already in rage mode and started yelling at everyone. We managed to tell him through a lot of drama and denying. Turns out he had a hunch and didn't want to admit it to himself. It also turns out that they are both jerks because he was apparently in a serious relationship with Tina's friend before leaving her for Tina. We're all glad that they're out of our lives. In a last low blow, Tina told me in front of everyone to take care of my marriage instead of her relationships. Because according to her, when she and Max lived with us for a few months, she had some financial issues, she had an affair with my husband. Of course, I don't believe it, but it left such a bitter taste. Update 2. She sent our group message a photo of a necklace that belonged to my husband's family's heirlooms, claiming that he gave it to her. That is her only proof. For all I know, she might have taken it. He wouldn't be as stupid as to give her something that distinctive. I do not believe a thing she says, but it does leave a bitter taste and makes me sad. We are all at the Thanksgiving party, and it's safe to say that the energy is really low. It seems like all my friends are affected by all of this, and I feel bad. Am I the jerk for ruining Thanksgiving? Should I have let her just bring Tom and not do this? If you had just kept the peace, you would still be friends with this jerk Tina. No one ruined Thanksgiving except for Tina. Am I the jerk for not making dinner when my girlfriend said she would? I work from home, and my girlfriend works in the hospital. Since I work from home, I normally do most of the household chores and whatnot. Last weekend, I was telling my girlfriend how I was feeling overwhelmed with work and all the things I do around the house, and I asked her to help out once in a while. She said she would try to help out more and told me she would make a surprise meal for the week. My girlfriend gave me a list of groceries she would need, and I bought it all on Sunday. She didn't cook on Sunday because it was too late at night for her to cook, and she didn't cook on Monday because when she got home from work, she was too tired to get started. This is where the conflict started. When she came home yesterday, she was in a bad mood and got mad that there weren't any leftovers. She told me how it's ridiculous why I think it's fair for her to come home from work and be expected to cook. I pointed out how she said she would do it and even asked me to buy the groceries for her. She said I shouldn't expect this of her because she will always be too tired to cook right when she comes home from work, and I should have known that. I told her how unfair she was being and that she's playing games by expecting me to read her mind to know that when she says one thing, she means the other. She said I was being a bad partner for not thinking about what she would need from me and that I'm not providing her with food when she comes home from work and I'm just failing. She's at work right now and I'm so upset, I really just want to break up. Am I crazy here? Info. How many hours does she work? And how many hours do you work? There must be a reason that you have been fine with doing most of the housework for so long. Why the change now? OP. Normally 44 hours, but she sometimes gets called into work. I work 40 hours a week and I'm off on weekends. Since we've been living together, I've been mostly okay with doing the chores around the house, but I've been going through a lot of stress with work and it's becoming harder for me to finish a lot of the tasks before she gets home. Right now I'm at this point where I will have to start cooking and cleaning after work instead of on my lunch break. Update. To answer some questions I saw on my post, My ex is a nurse, and she does work 12-hour shifts. I work from home and I work in sales. Some of you asked if we had the discussion on division of labor, and to a degree we did, but there were some things I knew I would need to do because she couldn't. Some of those being doing her laundry. Her mom did all of her laundry, and she doesn't know how to use a washer and dryer and doesn't want to learn. Groceries, bills, and keeping the house tidy. A few of you asked how long the commute is for her. In the morning, she could be at work in 16 minutes, but sometimes it'll take her 30 to 45 minutes to get home with traffic. Something I neglected to mention in my previous post was that this isn't the first time we've had this discussion where I felt overwhelmed and me telling her I need help. This was the first time in which I felt like she was turning it around on me, and a few people even said this, I didn't feel like her partner. I felt like a live-in maid. She sometimes helps out when I ask her on her time off, but she will complain and make me regret even asking her. So what happened? I had spoken with my friend to ask him if I could stay with him and his wife for a little while. They're familiar with the situation. They told me they had come by on the weekend to help me move out. The days leading up to the weekend were awkward. Like we would have small talk about how her shift was, and she would tell me how things were fine, and then watch her shows on her iPad. I asked her if she wanted to talk about the fight, and she said there wasn't anything for us to discuss. I told her that I wanted to talk about it, and if she was annoyed with me. Like she was watching this thing on YouTube, and she put it down, looked at me with her eyes wide open. Okay, what do you want to talk about? I told her that I wanted out of this relationship, and that I was deeply unhappy. She asked me why I hadn't told her before, like months ago. I told her how I had been telling her so many times that I've been feeling overwhelmed, and she wasn't helping but contributing to my struggle, and I didn't want to live my life like this. She got mad at me and repeated that I never used the words that I wasn't unhappy, and that there is only so much that she can do when she gets home. I told her how crazy that is, not to put two and two together to see how overwhelmed can lead to unhappiness. She asked me if this was because she didn't cook or do the dishes. The day I wrote the original post, I made roasted vegetables, but I was feeling really sick, and I asked her to do the dishes, but she didn't do it. I told her that it was partially that, but I also specified how I hate feeling like the bad guy for just asking her to help out, and that she won't help me even when I ask, but I will do anything for her if she asks me to. She told me that I should feel like a bad guy and a bad partner for expecting her to cook or clean when she comes home from work, and she's exhausted while I get to work from the comfort of our home. I got really mad because it felt as though she was dismissing how I was feeling and downplaying my stress and anxiety. I asked her if she can see why it's better for us to split up since we don't see each other as good partners. She agreed and told me she wanted to go back to watching her show. I told her I'd be out by the weekend, and she just hand-waved me off and unpaused her show. I don't think she took me seriously. I wasn't expecting it to end like this, and she was acting like it was normal. It was on Friday when she really laid into me that I was packing my things up and she saw it. She was in a bad mood when she came home, and she downplayed everything I did for the both of us. She told me my cooking was awful, that she hates telling me how I need to clean, that her clothes still smelled after I washed them, and the house looked like crap. I didn't want to escalate things, and truth be told, when she gets like this, I actually get scared, so I didn't engage with her. I think it finally hit her that I was being serious. She locked herself in our bedroom, and I don't know what she was doing in there, but I can assume that she had spoken with her parents because her mom called me as I was moving out. Her mom is a sweet woman, and she explained to me how she understands how I must be feeling, but asked me not to leave and said that she would come over to help with whatever I needed help with. I told her it was too late for that, and I couldn't be around my ex for a while. She told me to take some time, but begged me to not end things with her, and that she would talk with her and work something out like a mediation. I told her I'd think about it, partially because I felt guilty not having confided with her about this before. I didn't see my ex on Saturday when we moved out, but she has been texting me and apologizing for her behavior. But she wants to meet up at the end of the month to talk. As of right now, I'm just chilling in my friend's basement, and things are okay for now, but I feel so bad about everything. I'm thinking about going to see her and her mom next week just to talk, but not to get back together. Anyways, that's where I'm at right now. More happened, but I tried to keep this as short as I could. Her mom's gonna do whatever she can to get you to stay in the picture. Mom won't have to be her maid as long as you are.
Won't let me meet your boyfriend? Consider your date canceled. I'm a single dad, and I have been for about 9 years now. My daughter is 13, and she's the single greatest thing to ever happen to me. About a week ago, she said that this boy in her class wanted to know if she would be up to grab a pizza on that Saturday. We don't really do anything for Thanksgiving, so logistically it worked out well. She agreed to it. When she told me about this, I said that I wanted to meet this guy. She immediately got annoyed and asked why. I said that if a guy is asking my daughter out,
I just want to be able to put a face to a name. I promised her it was not going to be some goofy dad interrogates boyfriend and acts all scary tactic. I told her to tell him I wanted to meet him and to just say hi. She tells me that she told him. Saturday comes and I see her heading towards the door. I tell her to hold up and I ask where her date is. She says that he's outside and that they're going to bike ride to the pizza place. I ask why he's not coming to the door. She first tells me he's nervous and doesn't know what he'd say to me. I told her that nice to meet you is a good start. Her story changes and she tells me that he just doesn't see why I have to meet him. I reiterated my why to her and asked her to go get him. She breaks down and tells me that she lied to me. She never told him I wanted to meet him because she thought it was stupid that I wanted to meet him. I told her to text him that the date was off. She said I wasn't allowed to do that. I asked her again to tell him. She started getting teary-eyed, texted him, told me I was mean and that she hated me and went to her room. When I told my sister what happened, she thought I was in the wrong and said I should have just let my daughter go on the date. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. I know your intentions were good, but no daughter wants a dad to be up in their business when dating. I understand, truly, you are trying to be a protective parent, but the way you went about it was terrible. Turning pizza into a guy dating my daughter was mistake number one. You turned a very casual hangout into something more serious than even they were ready to attach to it. Then telling your daughter to tell the guy you wanted to meet him was mistake number two. That doesn't mean you couldn't have met him, any more than you could meet any other of her friends before they hang out. But making it this formal put too much pressure on the situation. Finally, when your daughter broke down and was honest with you, you punished her by canceling the date. Why would she ever be honest with you again? Need I remind you, all of this could have been avoided if you had simply walked outside with her, said hi to the date, and then left them alone. I know you were trying to be a good parent, but trust me, next time your daughter gets a date, she won't even tell you because she's learned that it's better not to. Edit to add. OP, for the future, maybe consider how you would have approached this if it was just your daughter hanging out with a new friend. That should show you that there are ways to have safety measures and meet who she's hanging out with without doing the whole, "What are your intentions with my daughter?" thing. I completely understand where you're coming from. I just want to share a different perspective. I was 13 and a freshman in high school. If I ever wanted to hang out with friends, even if my mom had met them before, she would need their number and to meet their parents and get their numbers as well. I was honestly shocked that I was ever even invited to just hang out with people. I have anxiety and I get nervous a lot. So when my mom told me I would have to get all of the information, I just never asked to hang out. I never went out or did anything. I was always too nervous to ask or what rules my mom would put in place. I also had great grades and never got in trouble. I still have a hard time making friends, and yes, it's due to me and how nervous I get meeting new people. I would have liked to have actually done things and had fun while in school. Your daughter and her safety comes first, which I completely understand, but you could have opened the door yourself and met the boy. Kids get nervous over things like this. I would have been terrified and thought that you would have said no, no matter the circumstances, even if it was a good kid outside the door. You're the jerk. My dad did the same thing when I was growing up, and guess what happened? I stopped telling him anything and everything. Like it or not, you're a controlling parent, and don't be surprised when your daughter goes no contact with you. You'll feel bad when she ends up like me because of the controlling parents I had. I'm now almost 30, but homeless throughout most of my 20s, and have had 4 babies, all of which I had to give up because I didn't have adequate housing according to the state. The struggles that I've gone through are not my fault, but all go back to my failed parents and how they always had to stick their nose in my business. To be honest, I hope your daughter ends up worse than I have, just so you can see what happens when you're a bad parent. Dang. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for wanting to meet him or not? Please let us know. I can't think of many places that are worse to seek parenting advice from than Reddit. I poured coffee all over Karen's car in the drive-thru, then got her arrested. I, 19 female, quit my crappy job at McDonald's recently and remembered this story. We had these regulars that would come through the drive-thru nearly every other day, and I was always the one handing them their food out the window. They were an older couple with awful attitudes. For context, my branch of the restaurant was one of 5 in my town, but the rest were about 20 minutes away. We were the worst rated because we were small and extremely busy as a result, and we were run by literal teenagers half the time. Lunch and dinner rushes were a mess as managers were more concerned with stats than actually running the place well. This couple would come through at our busiest time, order the same thing, shouting at the order taker, payment window, and me for how slow we were. Our small kitchen was unable to accommodate how busy we got, so wait times were often 300 seconds. It's supposed to be 120 or less. Every time they'd yell at me for how busy we were, how slow, how their food would be cold, how it wasn't fair to make an old couple wait, and every time the woman would ask for extra cream on her latte, and if she didn't get it, she would become irate. I would do it for her because I had learned to take the bullet for taking too long rather than dealing with this jerk. On this day, back when I was around 16 or 17, we were flat out busy, 600 plus second wait, when the cream couple arrived. I asked them to pull into a bay and we would bring their food out so that we could serve the next customers whose order was prepared. She went ballistic on me, refusing to move, shouting at me, slamming her hands on the dashboard, classic temper tantrum and refusing to move. This went on for so long, I started explaining to my manager the issue, who doesn't take that kind of crap, and she called the police to remove this woman. This is usually enough of a threat to get the customer to go, but not this time. She said something along the lines of, "Every time I come here, you have to wait, and my cream melts. And every time we come here, you're working. You are an awful person." I'm not the kind of person to take crap from people. You get the energy you give, but up until now, I had been forgiving. So I blurted out while she was yelling at me, "So? Go somewhere else then. It's called problem solving." She was stunned before lashing out again, explaining this place was her only option and there was no way I could make her go somewhere else. So I said, "Want a bet?" Latte and extra cream in hand, I poured the coffee all over the roof and the window of her car. I then asked her again to pull around and her order would be ready soon, and I slammed the window. I then promptly burst into tears out of exhaustion and hate and began making my way to my manager to tell her of my crime. The police turned up basically straight after. We explained what was going on while Cream Karen was trying to open the window. They asked her to go and explained she was now trespassing if she didn't go. Long story short, next thing I know, I saw this 70-plus-year-old woman swinging at the cop before quickly getting put into the cop car, leaving her very frail husband still sat in his car without his latte. Did this woman deserve to get arrested? Probably not. Was it appropriate for me to pour coffee on her car? Maybe not. You decide if I'm the jerk. Either way, it felt good. Plus, I didn't lose my job. Here's some more crappy things this woman would do. She would throw a temper tantrum if we were too busy to top up her extra cream. If there wasn't enough cream, we would have to remake the drink. The coffee machines would take 2 minutes to pour sometimes, and would then complain about how long the order took. Often, she would ask me to add like 5 packets of sugar to her pre-syrup latte, which I would happily accommodate for if we weren't busy, but also remind her that there were 3 pumps of syrup in there already. She would then complain it was too sweet and accused me several times of adding more sugar than she asked for. Am I the jerk for sacrificing my daughter's college fund because her sister just gave birth to her 4th baby? I'm 48, female. My older daughter, who's 24, gave birth to her 4th kid 6 months ago. She used to work as a dishwasher, but due to health issues stemming from her 2nd kid, chronic back pain, and then her 3rd, after effects of a broken tailbone and more chronic pain that made standing and moving around hard, she can no longer work now. She tried her best, getting an office temp job, but after about a week, the woman supervising her said, "This isn't working out." She was a very uptight woman who claims that just because it always took her 3 days max to train everybody else to the data entry work, that she can't just be a good person and accommodate slower learners. That woman likely caused her to get a bad reputation at the temp agency, and she didn't get hired anywhere else. My daughter's boyfriend, who's 28, works at Walmart. He had much more hours when she was pregnant, but since then his hours have ebbed and flowed. He said he will take a day in the future to look for jobs, but it's the holidays and he's busy with family right now. I feel a lot of empathy for my daughter and her boyfriend, and I wish I could help them out more, but I myself am a single mom working for a nursing home where I struggle to get full-time hours, and my ex ran up a lot of debt in both our names and is now living in another country. My younger daughter, who's 17, has a college fund. The amount in it would be enough to pay for a large amount of a 2-year community college, given the scholarships and grants she would likely get. She's applied to 4-year universities with the understanding that she'd be taking out loans and working, so she's deciding between 4 years and community college. The other shoe dropped after my older daughter's landlord found out that they were having her boyfriend's brother and girlfriend living in their one bedroom in exchange for them helping with the rent, and they got evicted. My daughter agrees it was wrong to lie to the landlord, and both parents are depressed because her boyfriend got a job offer one state away and they would have to move from their support network. They came to me asking for help so they could have more time to find financial stability here. I was torn, but seeing my grandkids, I knew my duty was to care for the most vulnerable in the family. So I will be making calls to liquidate my daughter's college fund. Oh no, come on. Liquidate my daughter's college fund, saying yes to understanding the penalties, and told my daughter this. She got very cold and said, "You always brag about having a good memory. I hope you remember this moment." She has not spoken to me since. Made some cryptic posts about how she hopes she'll be grateful one day that she won't have the privilege of studying anything outside of something technical because she needs something where she'll always be able to find a job. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. Your older daughter is immature and so is her boyfriend. So you turn around and support their bad decisions at the expense of your younger daughter? People who have 4 kids don't have the luxury of dipping out of employment when they feel like it, especially during the holiday season. You're penalizing the highly functioning minor daughter for other adults' selfish and foolish choices. You're the jerk. So your oldest daughter could barely afford 3 kids, has chronic pain, no job, and decided to have a 4th kid too. And then you thought the best solution was to upset your other daughter and ruin her future? When there was an option of them moving so they could get more money. Of course you're the jerk. You're the jerk. With that one action, you sacrificed your relationship with your youngest daughter. Poor thing. Tell your older daughter's boyfriend to get a vasectomy for the holiday season. Yeah, he kinda needs one, doesn't he? I'm finding out my girlfriend of 1 year is deaf as I'm on the bus on my way to meet her for the first time. Holy cow, I'm trembling. Still 6 hours until I make it there. I need to let it out somewhere. I, female 20, met her, female 21, in a match of League of Legends 2 years ago. We talked a lot, became really close, and basically started dating 1 year ago. We send each other pictures all the time and videos as well, so I never understood her apprehension to FaceTime me. We tell each other everything, and I mean everything. She's presented me her parents, and I know all her family. Today I was going to surprise her by visiting for the first time. I talked with her sister to make sure it was okay. Less than 30 minutes ago, I get a text from her, and I'm copy and pasting what happened. "Hey love, you are so sweet and beautiful, and you deserve so much better. I know you are coming because S told me. I'm sorry to ruin your surprise, it's just I'd hate to see your face when you find out. I know we promised to always be truthful, but I've been lying to you all this time." That was her first paragraph, and I was so worried because I thought she was breaking up with me. But then she continued, "You are too caring to ask why I never speak, why I never sent you a voice note. You're just too perfect, and there's no way you'd be with me if you knew. The reason is very simple. I was born deaf. I'm sorry you have to find out this way. I'm just a coward for not telling you sooner. I'll understand if you don't want to be with me anymore." Holy cow, I was expecting something totally different, and now I'm scared because I've never even interacted with a deaf person before, and I want to make sure she gets that I love her either way. I'm still in disbelief that she thought it would be a deal breaker for me. Update. So I'm back at my house now, and I'm still processing everything that just happened. I texted her I was outside, and my hands were shaking. I had no idea what to do. I asked her if she can read lips, and she said very little. When she opened the door, her eyes already had tears in them, and when she saw me, she broke down crying, and I started crying as well. I stopped thinking and just hugged her. I started speaking soothing words until I realized it was useless. After we both calmed down, we went to our room and started typing in our cell phones to talk to each other. At the beginning, it was kind of awkward, but after a while, it was pretty chill. We cuddled a lot, watched a lot of movies, and kissed a lot. It was a really beautiful day. There were some mistakes from my side. Out of the blue, I'd start speaking to her until I saw her confused face. I called her by her name when I was searching for her and tried to show her funny TikToks. The funny part being the audio. Yeah, I'm stupid, I know. But overall, it was an amazing day. She is more perfect than I could ever imagine. Thank you for all the words of support. I appreciate you guys. Update. It's been almost 3 weeks since we met in real life. She stayed last weekend at my place and we had a great time. But every time I wanted to say something, but I couldn't and had to type it, I felt frustration and anger. Because just now it's hitting me that she could have told me this, just like y'all said, and I'd already know at least a little bit of sign. It angers me because she knows how I am. She knows me better than anyone, and still she thought I wouldn't love her. I know it's more of a me issue, but I still can't help feeling sad. I don't want this to ruin our relationship, and I know I have to talk to her, but I guess I'm not ready yet. For those of you that say it was never real because we never saw each other are wrong. I never said we didn't send each other pictures or videos. She sent me a lot of videos of her doing stuff, but just never speaking. I did the same, but I spoke a lot in my videos. So yeah, call our relationship fake if you want. Only we know what we have. Update. We talked. I wrote what I was feeling and thinking. She completely understood what I felt and where it was coming from. She apologized profusely. She already has done that a couple of times and told me it was okay if I break up with her. We talked for hours about honesty and communication, and we both put our cards on the table. At the end, I told her I still love her, and she told me the same. We cried, laughed, and hugged each other. It was tough for a few moments, but I think the worst part is already over. I'm already looking for sign language classes, and I know the alphabet. I'm sure this whole thing has helped to strengthen our relationship. Thank you for all the advice. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Am I the jerk for throwing the fact that my adoptive mom is not biologically related to my daughter in her face? Backstory. My dad passed when I was 9 and my mom when I was 15. After my mom passed, my godmother adopted me. She calls herself and her husband my mom and dad. I call them mom and dad to strangers who don't know the story, but to them and friends, I call them by their name. They will be called Linda and Bob for this story. We generally get along and we don't typically have issues. Now for this story. My husband, 26 male, and I, 25 female, had our first baby 5 months ago. We're pretty lax first-time parents in my opinion. We've let people hold her as long as they've washed their hands since she was born. We've drawn a hard line and we don't let anybody kiss her though. We've had issues with Linda, 62 female, not respecting that. She's constantly trying to kiss her cheeks. I've told her time and time again that this is not acceptable and I don't want my kid getting sick. I've shown her videos of other babies with RSV and other sicknesses. She always agrees and says she won't do it anymore. My daughter and I went to her house for lunch this last Sunday, and while she was holding my daughter, I went to the restroom. While I was in there, I heard Bob gasp and say Linda's name. When I came out and asked what happened, Linda gave Bob the look of, "You better keep your mouth shut." Bob immediately tells me that Linda had kissed her. I snatched my baby back and started loading her into the car seat to leave. Linda starts trying to get me to stay, saying we haven't eaten yet, etc. I refused to stay, and I told her she won't be holding my daughter for a long time. She then says, "It's just a kiss from Grammy. It's not going to hurt anything." I start yelling, "It's not a Grammy kiss, it's a stranger kiss. You're not related to her. You share nothing biologically with her." And I stormed out of the house. My husband says I'm not wrong, but I could have been nicer about it. I called Bob, and he says Linda deserved it, and it was the only way she'd stop. All my friends, though, say I was being too mean, and I should have left without pointing out that she's not really related. Edit. Okay, I'm the jerk. I will go and apologize to her tomorrow after work. As many of you have pointed out, there is more to our relationship than what is shown here. There was never any mistreatment, but I was the walking trophy of her being a good person and adopting an orphan. I had to look a certain way, act a certain way, and maintain a certain image to make sure that I looked saved. I always did what was asked, no questions, because I owed her. After I moved out, we had lunch once a month until I became pregnant. She's been highly involved since then. Bob is a saint and I'd do anything for him. We've had breakfast every Sunday morning since I moved out. I have never viewed Linda as a mom, but I do view Bob as a dad. Everyone sucks here except Bob. She's completely ignoring your wishes. But the punishment does not fit the crime. Whether or not she's your biological mom has nothing to do with her breaking your rules. Everyone sucks here. Grammy needs to learn how to respect your boundaries. Your comment to her about not being biologically related was unnecessary. I'm 40 female. Why does my boyfriend, who's 50, act funny in stores, and how do I get him to knock it off? Every time we go shopping, he acts so weird. Here are some examples. 1. He will whisper in stores, but whenever I talk to him in a normal voice, he keeps saying, "What?" and I keep having to repeat myself and raise my voice in order for him to hear me. 2. He will stand there and watch me shop. He won't browse for or pick anything out for himself. He just follows me around and watches me while I browse and shop. If I attempt to follow him, he won't move. He'll just stand there and say, "I'm following you." 3. He acts annoyed whenever I pick something out, even if I'm spending my own money. Once I put a $3 hair clip on the checkout stand and he made a face and said, "Really?" And I was like, "What's the problem? It's a $3 hair clip. I need a clip and it's my money." And he was like, "I'm just surprised you would get that." And I was like, "Why? I have lots of hair and I need a clip. What's the problem?" And he said nothing, there's no problem, but the vibe said otherwise. 4. He will be very nice to the checkout person if they are younger and attractive. Otherwise, he won't make conversation with them and will ignore their questions and will claim it's because he has trouble hearing them. But he never has this problem when the cashier looks like Jennifer Aniston. He has no opinions in the store. If I ask him if he wants the regular or spicy barbecue sauce, he won't answer. First, he'll act like he can't hear me. Then after we do the me raising my voice and him recoiling dance, he'll shrug his shoulders and whisper, "Whichever you like," very meekly. It's bizarre. If I ask him at home, he'll say clearly in a normal voice, "I prefer the non-spicy." But in the store, he acts like Mr. Meek with zero opinions or preferences. It's only in the store that he acts this way. 6. He wears a resting jerk face the whole time in the store. 7. He acts like he's doing me a favor by going shopping with me. He won't carry on a conversation with me in the store either. If I try to tell him about my day, he'll just act annoyed, like he's not really listening and like I'm stressing him out by talking. I often get compliments from other women on my outfits, and he makes a grimace face when this happens. And he acts completely nice and normal and speaks normally at home and in the car. What's going on? He denies that he acts any differently in stores. Why is he doing this, and how do I get him to stop? Would there be a way for me to convince him to talk and act like a normal adult while he's in stores? Or do I just refuse to go shopping with him anymore? I'd rather be single than put up with this. He's doing this on purpose. He wants to not only appear single when he goes out with you, but also goes out of his way to treat you badly, and especially in the event of someone else boosting your confidence. $10 and a bag of cherries, he's gonna cheat if you stay, and someone gives him the opportunity to. Why are you dating this guy? You do know you're not supposed to date jerks, right? You're too grown for this. Sounds like he doesn't like shopping or gets some sort of anxiety while in the store. You can't change him. Anxiety doesn't make you act like a total jerk to everyone except people you think are hot. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. I think he has hearing loss, some social anxiety, and hates being in stores. I uncovered a major lie my partner told me while at his hospital bedside. I met my boyfriend summer of 2015. We were smitten, and a few months later, we began officially dating. Education is really important in my family. I have a bachelor's degree, and I am the least educated. My boyfriend has a few credits, but that's it. I always overlooked this as he enlisted in the Army after high school. Our relationship has had its ups and downs. Trust has always been a struggle. He has told a lot of lies. There are many examples, some big, some small. Just know I decided to forgive him every time. He's mostly been a good and loving partner. He's my best friend, and we have built a life together. He has been very sick. The Sunday before Thanksgiving, I noticed his eyes looked a bit yellow. He told me he felt fine. He was just tired, and he didn't think they looked yellow. Some of his meds have been causing mood swings, and he's been getting really defensive while talking about his health, so I dropped it. Thanksgiving came. My family are doctors, all of them. My sister specializes in GI stuff. At one point, they asked me if I had noticed his color. We discussed how something needed to be done. We weren't doing his family stuff specifically because he wanted a day where he didn't have to answer questions about his health. I talked to him privately about how my sister and brother-in-law wanted to talk with us about it when we saw them on Saturday, and he agreed. Saturday, he's yellow. We had been talking about getting him to a GI doc. Now we were talking about going to the ER. He got overwhelmed, and we compromised on him getting to sleep at home and us going first thing in the morning. So my sister and mom came by to pick us up first thing in the morning. We discussed which hospital would be best. My boyfriend's health insurance through work may or may not be in effect, a whole nother story, so we're thinking VA. He got overwhelmed and said he didn't want to go there for reasons like the quality of care and long waits. My sister said there is a chance we would end up getting sent to a bigger hospital in our area anyways, So we went there. We still don't know what's going on, but he's very unwell. My family is concerned that his family doesn't fully understand the severity and get on me to make sure they come by to see him for themselves. So his mom and stepdad came by. I think I was successful, but we just made small talk mostly. His nurse came in to say that she got him off his liquid diet, and when the tray came in, they left. He had one bite and started throwing up. I went out to ask the nurse what we needed to do with the vomit bag. His mom and stepdad are at the station getting put on the list to be notified of everything. We start talking about the insurance thing. I told them I planned on being with him all day tomorrow so I could figure stuff out, that I haven't even started looking into programs that can assist veterans like this. They stop me and ask what I'm talking about. He's not a veteran. I'm very confused, and it becomes obvious to all of us what has happened. They asked me to not say anything about it yet. If it weren't for trust being such a big thing in our history, I may have waited. But I last 2 minutes before I asked. He immediately told the truth and began answering my questions. We talked for a few hours. During the nurse shift change, I asked if they could give him something for anxiety and left after they did. Having that conversation with him yellow in a hospital bed was surreal. I think I'm most upset that by saying a stupid lie when we met to impress me has led to almost a decade of him lying to my family and friends. He wants to tell them, but I don't think I can keep this secret long. They are all full steam ahead to help him and are leaning into VA benefits. I can't lie for him, but I also want him focused on his health. I don't want to lose him, but I don't know if he's lost me. I want our life together, but I want to never see him again. I'm afraid of life without him in both versions. Do I tell them, or do I wait until he's more stable? Do I stay with him, or is it insane I'm even considering it? You need to tell them immediately. While this is a pride issue to him and will absolutely ruin his reputation in your family, there's also a massive issue now if they've been going down the care route trying to find doctors that will take his insurance. This will dramatically change his care plan. He won't be eligible with the VA. Call the insurance phone number on the back of his insurance card and work through whether he even has insurance right now with them. If he does, find out what plan network he's in. Good luck. What an awful situation. He needs treatment right now. But you need it too. Why is your self-esteem so low that you spend 8 years of your life with someone who lies to you all the time? It's not a small lie. It's not justifiable in any way. Help him while he's in the hospital. But once he's home, you need to get out of this relationship. He's a grown man. He's got family. He figured out his insurance by himself. Just go and never look back. Am I the jerk for deciding to quietly change my will without telling my wife? Me, 34 male, and my wife, who's 32, just had our first baby today. We were in the delivery room and all was going well. I was holding her hand, trying my best to be supportive. She was in pre-labor and was experiencing irregular contractions that she said weren't painful yet. I told her how much I loved her and that she was doing great, but made sure not to talk too much either. All of a sudden, my wife tells me, "Please get out." I ask her what happened, and she says she just doesn't want me there right now. I stand there in surprise for several seconds, after which the midwife tells me to get out or she'll call security. I felt humiliated. Not only was I banned abruptly from watching my child's birth, but it was under the threat of force. Throughout our marriage, I've suspected that my wife wouldn't be with me if it wasn't for my job and family background. Her eyes don't light up when I come home from work. I start our long hugs and she ends them early. Her eyes wander when I'm talking to her. I don't think she loves me nearly as much as I love her. I'm not accusing her of being a gold digger. She may love me on some level, but I don't know that she has ever been in love with me. If I died tomorrow, I don't know if it would take her very long to move on. I live in a state where the right to an elective share is 25% of separate property. We don't have a prenup, so this means that my wife has a right to at least 25% of my separate property if I die, even if I were to disinherit her in my will. I've decided to will her 30% of my separate property. It was previously 100%, and 100% of our communal property if I die. The rest of my separate property, including income-producing assets and heirlooms, goes to my kids and other family members. Am I the jerk? You should read up on stages and phases of labor, specifically transitioning to stage 2 of labor. This is a common reaction moms have, and it's due to an abundance of hormones and emotions, and maybe consider speaking to your wife about how you've been feeling. It's understandable you were upset and hurt that she threw you out of the delivery room, but clearly your marriage already has issues if you jump from that to changing your will the same day. You two need to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Do note, though, that your wife didn't threaten to remove you by force. That was the midwife. And without more info, it's hard to assess her feelings. All those things you described are things both my husband and I have done to each other at some point. Eyes wandering, not in the mood for a long hug, etc. It doesn't mean we don't love each other, just that we're not always in the mood to show it. Amazing that OP has the mental bandwidth to be strategizing like this on the actual day his first baby was born. Extremely petty and self-absorbed. Makes me wonder if he's on a completely different planet than his wife in general. Sounds like she was well within her right to demand space from him so she could focus on birthing a human. Yikes. Not the jerk. Pregnant-splaining at its finest. Out and about again today. But hormones and embarrassment. Goodness gracious. Change your will as you see fit, regardless of the reason. It's your crap. Do with it what you want. Would you like to have a whole room of people watching you push out a kidney stone? 'Cause I sure wouldn't. Awesome comparison. Didn't think someone could come up with anything so stupid, but Reddit never lets me down. Not the jerk. I'd paternity test the kid though. I'm guessing she had a panic moment that it might show it's not yours. Our OBGYN told us of the multiple occasions a husband was asked to leave to be sure the baby was the right race for the couple. My Karen stepdaughter goes to jail and my wife demands I go bail her out at 3 a.m. in the morning. Not gonna happen. My wife, who's 40, has a 19-year-old daughter, Meg, that's starting her second year of college. Meg attends a state school that's about a 4-hour drive from where we live. She started classes about 2 weeks ago. Meg has taken out loans to pay for her college and lives on campus, so she has no rent and has access to food on campus. She worked all summer, so she has a fair amount of money on her own, but we still provide her with $100 a month to help her out. This past weekend, my wife got a call from Meg at 3 a.m. Every parent's worst nightmare because no call at that time is good news. Thankfully, Meg was okay, but she had gotten arrested. Apparently, she had been in a party with friends and got drunk. She walked home with a group, but split off with a couple other friends at some point. This smaller group walked up to what they thought was one of their friends' houses, but it wasn't. The people who lived there did not appreciate the doorbell ringing at 2 a.m. and called the police instead of opening the door. When the cops showed up, Meg and the others ran. Meg got caught and was arrested. She called us from jail and wanted us to come bail her out. My wife practically jumped out of bed and started to get ready. I asked her what she was doing, and she said that we have to go get Meg right now. I told her it's 3 a.m. and a 4-hour drive. If I'm going to be driving that far, I need to get some more sleep first. My wife ripped the blankets off the bed and told me we need to leave now. I got up and reminded her that there are 2 other kids in this house, stepson who's 16 and our son who's 9, that we need to talk to before we leave, and I don't want to wake them up at 4 a.m. to tell them we're leaving. I also reminded her that due to her health issues, I'm guessing she wants me to drive since it's dark out. I told her that she either lets me sleep until at least 7 a.m. or she leaves now and drives herself. I told her that Meg is safe, even though she's probably scared and uncomfortable, but that maybe she needs to feel that way right now. She tried to argue with me, but I told her that I'm not going to fight about this, so she either leaves now or lets me sleep. Thankfully, she let me get some more sleep, but woke me up right at 7 a.m. and told me to get in the car. She apparently hadn't slept and had already told the other kids what had happened, and that we had to leave but would be back later in the day. The entire drive, my wife made comments about how scared Meg must have been and how we should have left earlier, etc. I kept trying to tell her that Meg will be fine, even if she's a little shaken up by this. Then my wife told me that if this was my son instead of Meg, I would have jumped out of bed just like she did. This upset me because I would have done the same thing for my son that I'm doing for Meg. You get arrested at 3 a.m. and want us to bail you out, you're waiting until I'm darn well ready to come get you. But my wife thinks that me sleeping instead of leaving right away was a jerk move. Not the jerk. Actions have consequences, and stepdaughter is learning that now. You did the right thing. Not the jerk. Staying a couple extra hours in jail while she sobers up might be a good wake-up call for her, and it might prevent future instances of getting drunk and doing stupid things. Not the jerk. While it's understandable that your wife was panicking and upset about her daughter being in jail, it's also reasonable for you to want to be rested before making a long drive. Safety should always come first. It sounds like you did consider Meg's well-being by stating that she was safe, even if she was uncomfortable. Getting arrested is a serious matter, and maybe it's a good life lesson for her about making better choices and understanding consequences. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. I would have left her in there a few days. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Am I the jerk for reporting a family for sending their kids to school in our district, even though they no longer live here? My kids and I moved into a new school district last year. Although we live very close to a great school, we were sent to attend another school in the district because the desired school was at capacity. I was informed right now before the school year that my 2 kids were next to be enrolled. The housing issue has slowed movers down to a near halt, and we aren't really living in an area with frequent movers anyway. I found out that a family moved out of our district to our inner city schools, but was also informed their students were still attending the school in my district. I don't know the family, but I don't blame them. The inner city schools are terrible and problematic at best. However, our district is not open enrollment, and they should no longer be attending the school. I called the principal and board of education to make a report, and I was finally informed last week that my kids will be attending our local school, and I breathed a sigh of relief. They will start next week, and this will be a huge burden lifted for our household. The issue comes from the family that needs to pull their kids from the school. They found out I made the call and informed me that while I was doing what's best for my kid, I would have a horrible impact on theirs. Apparently, one of their kids is autistic and thriving with their school. They said that he was nonverbal, but now he's telling his mom, "I love you." I felt terrible when they said that, but I also didn't make them move. They did that on their own. They've been telling people about it, and of course, they all think I'm heartless. Some have said that I'm a jerk, but I wanted to see if I mishandled it. So, am I the jerk here? Everyone sucks here. The fact that the US school system is based on zip codes is a huge problem. We fund education primarily through property taxes, so the more expensive areas have the better schools. People who can't afford houses in those areas are essentially condemned to a substandard education. So basically, the US public school system is the biggest jerk here. The other family in this situation sucks because they were breaking the law. Even if it's a law that shouldn't exist, it does, and they needed to follow it. It's my understanding that many districts will accommodate kids and families with special circumstances. At the very least, before moving, the family should have talked with the district about legal ways to keep their kids in their schools. If they needed their kids in these schools, then they needed to move within the district or find a way to get a transfer back into the district. You suck because you threw another family under the bus. I get why you did it, but it's still a jerk thing to do. Not the jerk. You moved to a home specifically for the school, which is a common thing. The people that moved out of the school district while their kids still attended were breaking the law. I get that it's hard and expensive to raise a special needs kid, but that doesn't justify breaking the law. Your kids have the right to go to that school. Their kids need to attend a school based on their address. Yeah, it might suck, but that's the way it works. Legally, not the jerk, but morally, wow. Best I'd give this is no jerks here, because neither of your families created the scenario where schools don't have the funding to run properly, and both of you were doing what was best for your families. That being said, your decision resulted in your kids going from a good school to a great school, and the other kid, who needs extra support, from a school that could provide that to one that can barely support kids without special needs. Thanks. Well, what do you think? Was OP wrong for reporting the other family or not? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for boarding the plane and leaving without my wife? My wife, who's 43, and I, male 47, have a daughter who's 21 who goes to college out of state. We will call my wife Meg and my daughter Jess. Jess is in her junior year of college. Over the summer, she was employed by our university and was able to stay in the dorms. After summer, she was moving out of the dorms and into her own apartment off campus. Meg and I live in the Pacific Northwest, and Jess goes to school on the East Coast. We usually go to visit Jess a couple of times throughout the semester, typically parents' weekend and move-out day. She also comes home during the holidays. Let me start by saying that traveling with my wife is not a great experience. I'm very type A. I like to have everything organized and make sure that we get where we need to be on time, especially when traveling. My wife is the opposite, very go with the flow and we will get there when we get there. I do my best to meet in the middle, but not when traveling by plane. Last year, during Parents' Weekend, Meg and I were going to fly out to see Jess. Our flight was at 10 a.m. Our airport isn't huge, but not a tiny airport either. I told my wife that we needed to be at the airport 90 minutes early, and we live about 30 minutes from the airport. This being said, I wanted to leave at the very latest by 8, since we would also need to park and walk a little bit. I of course got up at 6 to make sure everything was ready and accounted for. My wife does not like to get up early. It took me attempting to wake her up 5 times before she eventually got up at 7:40, then wanted to make coffee, shower, and eat a bowl of cereal. Let's just say that we didn't leave the house until 9. It ended up being busier at the airport than normal. likely due to many colleges having parents that weekend, and it took so long to get through security that we missed our flight. Rightly so, the airline refused to refund our tickets. We were able to get new tickets, but not until the next day, and missed Friday afternoon and Saturday morning with our daughter. Jess was disappointed, to say the least. Fast forward to now. We were flying down for a long weekend to help her move. We take one flight from our town to a bigger town nearby, then fly from there to my daughter's college town. Again, it was a long morning of me pushing my wife, getting her to move along. Due to the last airport mishap, I wanted to make sure I told her we needed to leave extra early as to not miss the flight again. We got there on time, with a bit of time to spare, and my wife was annoyed. Kept going on about how now we just have to sit and wait for 45 minutes for them to start boarding. We took our first flight and landed in the connecting city at a much larger airport. We only had about 1 hour layover. We got off the plane at 9:15 and our next plane started boarding at 9:40. We had to take multiple rails to get from where we landed to our terminal. We got to our terminal and had about 15 minutes until our plane was set to board. My wife tells me that she wants to get coffee. There was a little market next to our terminal that sold hot food and coffee. I asked if she wanted me to go grab it for her. "No, I want Starbucks," she said. Well, Starbucks was a real ride away and a little bit of a walk. I told her we couldn't do that. We didn't have enough time. She stated that we had enough time, and if I wouldn't go with her, she would go by herself. I tried to discourage her, but she was determined. She walked away at a brisk pace for her and said she would be back in time. 15 minutes went by and she was nowhere to be seen. They started calling boarding groups. I called my wife, hoping that she was nearby, but she didn't answer. They called a few groups, then called ours. In a panic, I called her again 3 times. Finally, on the last call, she answered and said that she was on her way. It was a long line and she had to wait a bit. I told her they were almost done with boarding and she needed to hurry up. I waited by the gate, but the attendant said they would need to shut the gate in 2 minutes. I waited and waited, but she didn't show up. The attendant asked if I wanted to board. Otherwise, she was closing the gate. I tried to plead with her to wait a couple of minutes, but she insisted that she couldn't, so I boarded the plane. A few minutes later, my wife calls me, saying that the attendant won't let her on. They had already removed the boarding ramp at that point. She told me I needed to tell them to let me off the plane to be with her, and I said no. It's not fair to do this again to Jess. I said I told you we didn't have time, but you decided to go anyways. I told her to go purchase a new ticket for the next flight, and I would see her when she arrives. She got to Jess's school and seemed unbothered by the whole situation, didn't even really talk about it. I thought maybe she realized it was her fault and just wanted to drop it. Boy, was I wrong. We're now home, and she hasn't talked to me since the trip, over a week ago, and is insisting that I'm the jerk. So, am I the jerk? Update. As far as how she acts in other situations, she generally doesn't have any issues. She's never one to be late to work or anything like that, or just seems like travel is her poor area. I never noticed things like this until we started traveling often to see our daughter. This is why I never considered ADD or ADHD. She really shows no other signs of this. I saw posts implying that my wife might have an addiction of some sort. I'm not sure how that would line up, but I don't see that being a possibility. I didn't think the following information was important, but my daughter made a comment and so did a friend that I discussed this with, so I thought maybe I would mention it here. Jess is not Meg's daughter. I was married once before, and my wife unfortunately passed due to complications during Jess's birth. I remarried Meg when my daughter was 6. My daughter made a comment that Meg doesn't want to come to see or help her, and that's why she's always running late. But I've offered to go alone, and Meg was always very against the idea, so I don't think that that's the case. Update. I can't say that Meg and Jess have had the easiest relationship. Meg always wanted to have another kid, but we were unable to conceive. She did make comments that she wanted kids of her own, and that caused a little rift in our relationship at the time, because I wanted her to see Jess as her daughter. But they really never had the typical mother-daughter relationship. It was always very much pushed that Jess was my daughter. Meg did make comments about being excited to have an empty nest, but I assumed this was just because we would have more room. Jess is a great kid and really never says anything bad about anyone. But she had made comments before stating that she thinks Meg is jealous of her, but this never made sense to me. She has also told me that she doesn't want Meg to come to her school for Parents' Weekend as she would rather spend it with just me or wait for Father's Weekend. But Meg always says she wants to go and I've never gone without her. This being said, I've never seen any negativity directed at Jess from Meg or resentment. Maybe I'm missing something. Update. My wife finally started talking to me again. When she did, I told her that I wanted to have a conversation about this situation, but I wanted to give it a couple of days for emotions to settle down. Some of the comments here gave me a great idea and I wanted to see what she thought about it. For all future trips, I will have my tickets, she will have hers. I typically drive to the airport and leave my car in one of the pay lots, so I would drive myself and she can take an Uber. She will have all the freedom she wants to do whatever she wants, but it's up to her to arrive on time and board the plane. I let her know that it was starting to feel like I needed to keep track of both of us. I phrased it in a way to make it sound like I didn't want to be controlling over her and let her manage her own time. She wasn't happy with this, but she reluctantly agreed. Now to get to the bigger issue that I didn't realize we had until reading the comments of this post. Call me oblivious, but I really never thought there were any issues between Meg and Jess. After talking to my wife, she wouldn't admit to any issues and stated that she would never intentionally delay a flight so that we couldn't see our daughter, and acted offended that I would ask such a thing. If that was her actual purpose, I don't think I would be able to prove it, but it will be at the forefront of my mind in the future. After talking to Meg and Jess, we decided the following. Meg and I will be visiting Jess on Parents' Weekend, but I will be attending Father's Weekend from now on, and I will be attending by myself to get some alone time with Jess. Jess seemed very excited, and surprisingly, Meg didn't seem to have an issue with it this time. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to give me advice. I really appreciate it. Goodness, this would drive me crazy. I predict the problem will persist, and the wife will find some way to blame her husband because she clearly has issues taking accountability for her actions. My tenant did over $50,000 of damages and then asked me for a character referral. When my wife, who's 24, and I, 28 male, were starting out, we had a little old rental house downtown that we leased to male students. When we moved out of the country for a job, I figured it would be easier to rent to one family rather than chase around 6 separate broke students for rent, shared bedrooms. The first family that we put in there turned out to be a bad choice on my part. Misty, 40 female, was fine for the first 4 months or so. When I visited in person, the house was noticeably getting gross. They weren't taking care of things. This might have been somewhat forgivable, but then Misty stopped paying rent on time. To make matters worse, there was a plumbing issue that sounded expensive. The toilets were backing up, and sewage was soaking the carpets in the basement. The whole place stunk. I didn't even know why. The plumber ran a camera down the pipes to see what was happening. He informed me that the clog was the result of buildup of needles. You know, the ones that might be used for things they shouldn't be. I opted to pay $1,000 to have them use high pressure to flush out the system. Unfortunately, my house was nearly 100 years old, so the high pressure destroyed the clay connector to the city sewage system. The only way to fix it was to shut down a major residential road and dig to it for $30,000. Insurance wasn't in any hurry to pay either. I didn't have that kind of cash sitting around at the moment, and Misty was still in there. I wanted to evict Misty, but it would be a long process, and I knew that she would fight tooth and nail to stay, as she didn't want to go back to her parents, who lived just down the street. By this point, my house resembled a hoarder's home, and I suspected it was being used for criminal activity. Rather than evicting Misty, I called the health department because they were living with no running water and a porta potty that they rented in the backyard. It was gross. They also had 2 daughters there. It took a visit from a team of sheriffs to get her out, and only after the property was condemned. When Misty later did leave, she left about 100 pounds of rotting meat on the front lawn. She also left the house a giant mess and stole many of my things. I was so relieved that she was gone that I almost didn't care. She was a major source of stress in my life and in my marriage. It ended up taking several hundred hours and over $50,000 to fix up the house. Eventually, insurance came through for part of it. I tried not to be resentful about the situation because being an addict and living in a condemned building is its own punishment. There wasn't anything I could feel good about doing to her. She was already doomed to live poorly based on her own choices. By this point in life, I felt like I was above petty revenge. Besides, she had 2 kids. Oddly, Misty had the nerve to text me to ask for a character referral for a new place since she didn't have anyone else, other than her parents presumably. I was dumbfounded, but text back a thumbs up. Maybe I could save the next guy. Eventually, I did get the phone call from the next guy asking about Misty. He was a jerk to me on the phone. He was talking over me and talking down to me. He was an expert landlord doing his due diligence, etc. I tried to get my story about Misty in, but then I paused. I listened to him talk down to me some more. I'm a total stranger. Why was he acting like this? And then I waited until it was my turn. I told him, you know, Misty was great. I had some major plumbing issues, otherwise she'd still be with me. Also, she's got a cute family. Treat me with disrespect? Good luck with Misty. You 2 deserve each other. Misty got the place and thanked me. Then I never heard from either of them again. Petty me. With the housing crisis as bad as it is, I have zero respect for anyone who chooses to hog up housing for themselves in order to capitalize on others and take advantage of them. And the fact that people are allowed to do this is beyond me. Landlords should really stop posting stories here. Like, we get it. You're rich and see other people as tools to make even more money off of. But when you post on Reddit about how hard you have it being a greedy property owner, you're going to get a taste of your own medicine. Oh look, another rich man using people for profit. I get so sick of hearing about this. Meanwhile, here I am, struggling to afford rent, even though I have 2 other roommates in a 500 square foot apartment. You know, if it hadn't been for Reddit, I wouldn't even know how many people despise landlords. Entitled coworker tries to schedule meetings outside of contract time and criticizes my non-work plans. I have a coworker who's really disorganized and waits until the last minute to schedule things, and so that frequently means calling a meeting at 4 on a Friday. For reference, my 8-hour workday ends at 3, so these meetings make for 10-hour plus days, and because my coworker is so disorganized and unprepared, we frequently have to cover things that should have been done ahead of time, like creating an agenda or desired outcome at the actual meeting. Because these are required meetings, usually once or twice per month, I have to go to them no matter when they're scheduled and get extended pay for working overtime. But my coworker is supposed to give at least a week's notice, and I'd definitely rather have the free time than the money. Typically, if I don't hear by Thursday afternoon that they have scheduled the meeting for 4 on a Friday, I make other weekend plans, like hiking or bicycling or going out somewhere. Yesterday, Friday, the coworker attempted to schedule the meeting at 4:45, but didn't put it on my calendar until 3:05. I should have been off by then, but I had an end-of-day meeting that went over by a few minutes, so I was doing a last check of email and then shutting things down for the weekend. I saw the meeting request and responded that that wasn't enough notice for a meeting that far outside the workday, and that I normally would not have even seen the notice until the following Monday, and CC'd my boss just so they knew I wasn't trying to shirk any duties. Of course, my coworker is upset because they're required to hold the meeting by law, and it's the absolute last day to do it without filing an extension, which they've been told by my boss they're not allowed to do unless there's extenuating circumstances, and they've known about it for 2 months. They just didn't plan for it. My boss calls at 3:10 saying, "Can you please do this now and end at 4:10 and we will address it on Monday?" Fine. I was planning on leaving town, but I can leave a little bit later. Coworker responds to my boss by email and says they're using personal time between 3:10 and 4:45, so they can't hold the meeting until then, and that nothing I'm doing could possibly be important enough that I can't attend the meeting at 4:45. Boss calls coworker. Coworker confessed that their kid's birthday party is at 6 that evening, and they have to go try to find a cake and party supplies for the party before the meeting, which is why they're not available. Boss gets annoyed and says that we, boss and I, will do the meeting now, and coworker will have to answer for it on Monday. Boss and I hold the meeting, it takes 20 minutes, I'm out of there by 3:45. Coworker sends me a nastygram by text at 10:15 p.m. saying it's my fault they're in trouble and that they have a kid, so I should understand that people with kids come first, and that my activities and hobbies are pathetic, and it wouldn't have been that hard for me to just attend the meeting they scheduled, and that they'll have to go back and fix everything my boss and I did incorrectly because they like to do it a specific way. My boss had already submitted it. I responded that I hope they enjoyed their kid's birthday party and have a good weekend. They respond that they forgot to invite people so no one came, and thanks for rubbing that in their face. Update. I had a meeting yesterday with my boss about everything that had happened. My boss will be sharing extensive documentation with HR, including their own notes, and I've been asked to pull all of my calendared meetings from the last 6 months and send them to HR. I already had screenshotted them because I had to submit extended hours. Glad I did, because coworker tried to delete them and uninvited me from them when they caught wind that it was an issue of contention. My boss couldn't go into details, obviously, about their course of action with the coworker, but I do know their meeting with HR isn't until Thursday, and their meeting with my boss was after mine yesterday, which was after my workday, but not theirs. Another coworker sent me a text saying that coworker came out of their meeting with puffy red eyes that looked like they had been crying, but otherwise nothing juicy to report. As for the next steps, the one course of action I do know is that coworker will be required to provide a written apology by Friday of this week, and it will be added to their personal file. If my company follows their usual process, which my boss hinted at on Friday, coworker will basically be given the opportunity to resign from their current job and resume their old job. Or they can be administratively removed from their current job and placed in their old job. Their current job is an unfilled vacancy, to take place August 1st, But in the meantime, they will no longer be in charge of the project I've had to work on with them, and our grant department will do it instead. I've not heard from coworker for the apology, but am expecting something vague and without much effort put into it. Probably by email at 11:59 on Friday, or what I expect is even more likely, they will put it off and claim they need the accommodation to not have to do it and drag it out with HR. Update. I received the apology. Here it is. Sorry for projecting my stress onto you. You didn't deserve to get lashed out at. It's been a rough year with the divorce and getting used to a new job. I'm stepping down in August to take care of me and my kid for a while. I'm sure that gossip is already spreading like wildfire. Thanks for putting up with me. Your coworker. Forgot to invite people to their kid's birthday party? I bet it has been a rough year, what with the divorce and all. I told my pregnant sister that her having another baby would be irresponsible of her. I'm 22 and she's 25. My sister, Mia, her son is 7 months old and the father is not in her baby's life at all. He basically left the week after the baby was born. I've been supporting the both of them financially while my sister Mia gets back on her feet and looks for a job to pay the bills all on her own. Fast forward to 2 days ago, she calls me excitedly, tells me she has big news. Deep down in my heart, I already knew what she was going to say, and my intuition was confirmed when she said she was pregnant again. She went on and on about how she met this new guy she hadn't told me about, and how nice he treats her and the baby, that she really feels like he's the one, and how she can't wait for the family she was supposed to have. I basically laid it out straight to her. She hasn't been dating this guy for very long, and yet she's already pregnant and wanting to marry him simply because he treats her and the baby nicely? He isn't helping with bills or providing in any way. This was not likely to last, and she'll be a single mom of 2. Not to mention how dangerous it is to get pregnant this soon after giving birth. She told me I was being fake and that I wasn't acting like family, that I should support her like our mother is. Turns out our mother is worshiping the ground she walks on, telling her stories about how our stepdad only knew her for 2 months before he married her, blah blah blah. I told her that I can't support her or any other kids should she decide to go through with this. I essentially said, I'm not pressuring you into anything. This is your choice, but I refuse to be financing this choice. You're on your own, Mia. I can't enable you to keep digging yourself in further holes you can't climb out of because of irresponsible, unplanned pregnancies, and I refuse to. Of course, she didn't take that well, started crying and saying how I just don't want her to be happy, how much of a jerk I am, and hung up. Our mother isn't very happy with me now. I do feel bad. I don't think I worded it the best, nor should I have called her irresponsible. I'm just at my breaking point. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You could have worded it better, but you're on the money. It's an irresponsible decision, and she should know better. She's not entitled to your financial support, and you have the right to cut her off. Also, it makes me laugh that she calls you fake because you're the only one being real with her. Not the jerk. And honestly, I don't think she should have been nicer with her words. Her sister is an irresponsible, entitled leech. What does she expect OP to do? Provide for her for the rest of her life while she gets repeatedly knocked up by every true love she meets? Let's be honest, no one thinks this will last. The mother is also delusional. It's nice that her own quick relationship actually worked out, but if she wants the same thing for her daughter, she should be the one providing for her. I assume that's why she's angry at OP. She's eager to support Mia emotionally because that costs nothing, but she doesn't want to spend her money on her. Imagine your boss fires you, replaces you with AI, and it completely backfires on them. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. Karen and I are already waiting for you.